Okay. Okay, we are now live. Thank you once again for everyone joining me and joining us tonight. I have a trifecta of folks from across the nation and the world. You know, we got my main man, Braylon, Mega Gears X here. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, I'm glad you can join. We got DC Fans United, hailing from the United States as well.
Hey,
The windiest place in the United States.
Yeah.
And hard copy from Perth, Australia. So we're international tonight, folks.
Yo. Good day.
Good day. It's not a knife. No, this is a knife. And I got a butter knife. And like butter a little, put a little marmalade and some, vegetable.
Oh, I see you've played Knifey Spoony before.
Well, what brings us together tonight is one of the most important things ever. It's the 90s, and the 90s shall never die as long as it lives in our hearts and on our comic shelves. Because right now I'm looking at a stack of about 3 foot of comics, and 80% of those are 90s comics. The insanity that is the 90s, where you had a decade of turmoil. You know, companies closed, shops closed, there was shops open, shops closed, books going for way too much than they were worth, collector booms, collector busts, Marvel going bankrupt, being bought out by their toy subsidiary. You had DC going like trying to capture the magic that was the Image Comics, the Image creators themselves. So we're going to talk the gamut of that, and I figured, Braylon's hooked to the 90s as well. Looking back at you're the youngest of a youngest here, I'm pretty sure. Like I was reading these comics before you were even born, dude.
Oh man, dude, I'm always the youngest.
Are you allowed to be up? Do your parents know you're up?
Ah, come on, man.
The funniest thing, I guarantee, Braylon, even though he's the youngest, he looks more manly than I ever will. That mustache alone. That mustache alone gives him the cred.
I think if they need to recast Lando.
Oh,
there you
go. All because of the mustache, man.
Yep,
no, it's the attitude, man. It's that smoothness.
They'll just hire the mustache.
It's like, no, we don't want you. We just want the mustache. Since you brought up the 90s, I forgot I actually had these because I was reading the Starfire before we went live. The Jimmy Palmiotti. Dude, I'm just like, the more I read this stuff, the more frustrated I get because I'm just like, you're going to charge me $6 for a Spider-Man comic with Nick Spencer. I didn't buy it because I saw the $6. I just got the free copy with the pencil art since I'm just trying to study that anatomy and see if I can figure that crap out or whatever. But then I turn around and then go to half price books. And I'm like, oh, you want to charge me like $5 for like a mediocre title? I went to half price books. I got Cyberforce issue number 1 and issue number 3 for 75 cents. Turn around, they have Xavier Security Enforcers, issue number 4, with Bishop, and apparently he has a sister named Shard. I didn't know that.
They gave her an action figure, dude. Back at man, I actually had her. They used to give out those action figures in the 90s, like sell them. I mean, but now they act like, oh, look, Ray's got a figure. Bitch, I had Shard, I had Storm, I had Rogue, I had Jean Grey, I had Spiral until somebody stole her. I mean, Spiral was a badass bitch. Multiple arms, little Shiva look, little samurai helmet.
Yeah,
but they had April O'Neil for the Ninja Turtles.
There you go. Well, that was like a bukkake party waiting to happen. I'm sorry, because
my goodness,
the
turtle soup.
The turtles don't have any genitals.
Well, they apparently do. If you watch one of those real Turtles things, like, oh no, it's like one of those like Fox parody things, like they did with DuckTales.
Off the rails before we're even scheduled to start.
I can't help it, man. I can't help it.
Well, before we go too far down the rabbit hole, I also have issue number 41 of X-Force with Tony Daniel doing the cover. This was a buck.
Nice.
And it's the cover with Farrell like attacking Cannonball, and it looked so dope, man. Like,
I got the one with the hologram on it. Anyone remember that?
Oh, that was
I had that, and my mate stole it. And when I said, "Can I have my copy back?" He goes, "I don't know what you're talking about." It's like you stole my freaking X-Force holographic.
Dude, I got it worse than that because Fatal Attractions did. That's when they, the X-Men assaulted Asteroid M or Avalon, Magneto's fortress, and Colossus at the beginning of the Fatal Attractions arc, he already lost his sister, so he was in a depressive state. So he went on to join the Acolytes, Magneto's crew, because he's like, screw the X-Men. The X-Men have nothing but trouble. I'm leaving. So he goes, joins Magneto's crew, and so the X-Men go up there, and they're gonna tell Magneto what. Magneto pulls out the adamantium for Wolverine, of course, and then Xavier mind wipes Magneto, and then his psychic energy and Xavier's psychic energy form eventually Onslaught, and that's how you get the Onslaught crossover. But the covers of the tie-in issues had these like foil, plasticky hologram cards. Like one of them's Gambit, one of them's Cable, so on and so forth. I had 3 of the books. I had X-Men 25. I had Uncanny X-Men 308 or 305, the tie-in for that, and then I had the X-Force one, the one with Richter on the cover. Richter and so forth. I took those to school. They had those covers, and like their cards are not supposed to be removed. I went to lunch, came back. Some son of a bitch in my classroom had taken the covers and ripped the cards off.
Oh.
So he took the hologram cards and let the. I was like, no, he defaced it because it's like half the coolness of it. It's like this, this gatefold cover or whatever, it's like a double spread cover, and then the holograms are like, no, you asshole, you taking my love from me, no. But yeah, hey, that was many years ago.
School, weren't you?
Traumatized, man. I was getting beat up and getting my stuff ripped off from me. So there you go. He couldn't win. Couldn't win for losing.
I got into X-Men around at high school. Actually, that's how old I am. But yeah, that's when I started properly collecting.
So what era X-Men was this?
This was when like everybody had a like X-Force, X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine. Oh shit! Who else had it? Anyone who had it was at that period where every X-Men was so popular. If you were an X-Men, you had a separate, you had a title of your own. Well,
that was like about what, mid-late 90s, around that time.
Yeah, around that time.
Yep.
Just before Jim Lee and all that left. It's interesting. They became rock stars.
So you're a little older than I thought you were. I thought you were. That was like early 90s right there before they left.
Mm-hmm. And they were rock stars. I watched a documentary on YouTube about it, and they were literally rock stars. Even normies knew who they were.
Was that Sci-Fi Wire when they had the Image comics thing, like documentary?
Yeah.
That was really dope. It was really dope. Yeah, I saw it too.
Yeah. So your mum lets you use the YouTubes.
Oh, here we go.
That's the last one.
That's brutal.
I'm sorry, Braylon. I'm sorry.
It's like gonna need ice for that.
You gotta roast. The roast god is here.
Don't mess with Texas, man. I'm hard copy. Don't mess with Texas. Braylon's from Texas. I mean, Texans are basically all like Liefeld creations, except they have feet and tons of guns and pouches.
Also, their bodies are kind of the wrong way to their heads.
Oh my goodness! You know what's funny? I was So here's one of the things I was noticing, and it was one of the other comic book shops I go to. Every time we always end up coming to the same conversations over and over again. So I went there because the guys there at the other shop I go to are pretty cool, right? So I go up there, I'm like, hey, do you have my Death of Glory issue number 3? I don't have a pool, but y'all said y'all hold it for me. It's like, yeah, we got you. I was like, that's what's up. So then we were talking about the whole thing about, what was it? How just kind of certain things with comics have changed with Batman because the whole thing with, the marriage not happening or whatever. And about, Spider-Man, because I tweeted before because I saw that they had X-23, right? They got rid of the all-new Wolverine, and they have X-23. And I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, it shouldn't be that hard to write a good comic. All you have to do for X-23 is just make it an X-Force-like comic with action, good art, and a little bit of humor. That that's all you need. Just make it an X-Force title, just with X-23. Go all the way 90s with it. Get Paolo Pantanella to do the art, and you have gold. But they're not going to do that because, it's cheaper to do whatever they want to do, and they have Mariko Tamaki on it. And I'm like, I just want 90s X-Men back, like just with attitude and everything. And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to go to Half Price Books and just go through all the bins and get all the X-Force books. It'd be a better way to do things.
You actually put an idea in my head, Braylon. I was going through and looking at some books, and I came across some Larry Stroman art on X Factor.
Oh, I have issue 71, 72. I love his art so much.
And it was so funny to look at this stuff. It's like, oh my God. It's like you didn't, like I did at the time, I was blinded by, the Silvestri and Jim Lee and all that, even Liefeld to a degree. And like these people, and then to look back, like Larry Stroman, like it was just like, he just fit in with everybody else, but then compared to today where there's an artistic dearth, like there's nothing going on, to see like Larry Stroman's, like, we didn't appreciate what we had at the time. And that's how it feels. It's like at the time, it's like it was, and it's still, you look back at like, it was still that, his first issue, the first Peter David issue, it just felt really fitting for that book. It's like, just boom, here you go. You're a strong guy, here's Polaris, here's, Havoc, all that. And it worked. And then to look at the comics today, it's like, it's so hard. It's so hard not to compare the two. It's like everybody's, just like pissed on the 90s comics. Like there's that, I don't know if any of y'all watched the Top of the Fourth Wall Linkara, that guy, which he did a comic where it's basically knockoff Green Lantern that's okay with rape gangs, and he sells furniture or something. It's really bad. The dude's like, it's like those who can't do criticize. Lightbringer, yes, Lightbringer. But the guy is like, he has a hard on for like Liefeld and Frank Miller and all these other people. He hates them, or like just trashes them all the time. He was doing like quote unquote roast videos before they were called roast videos. I think he even burned a couple of comics, so technically he really did do a roast. And bringing the stuff up, it's like you go back and look at it, like Dooms 4, which was a Liefeld joint. It was basically Rob Liefeld's version of Fantastic Four. He really didn't have nothing to do with it. It was like just a little bit of creative input. And for the fact that there's not much story there, it wasn't that offensive of a book. It's actually much better. It was actually much better than that Matt Fraction run of Fantastic Four with Mike Allred. I was shocked. I was actually kind of disgusted at the fact that I love Mike Allred. Hey, Matt Fraction does good work too. And you think it would be a perfect melding. Nope, it wasn't. It was just Dooms 4 was more entertaining and more enjoyable than the Matt Fraction, Mike Allred Fantastic Four book. But I don't know. That might just be my brain melting from the Surge Cola that I had the other day. So fresh from the 90s.
Linkara died for me when he started shitting on Dale Keown. Sorry, man. You don't do that.
I'm not the biggest Dale Keown fan. His pit, like it's like, hey, do you like the Hulk? Do you like 90s grunge music? Here you go. It's the Hulk with no nose and dressing like a
he's on the cover of issue of Cyberforce number 3. I didn't know who that was. He said some dude named Pitt, and I was like, who is this weird looking like Lobo Hulk grunge rock guy on the cover, man? Because I was actually looking for the annual. I don't know where it is. I went in there. I was like, I'll come back later. And some jerk didn't put the comics back where they were, and like they had like these slide drawers. And I was like, I can't freaking find it. I can find all these random Wildcats and Gen 13 issues and Gen 13 and Generation X crossovers, but I can't find this one annual, dude. Like I was getting frustrated. I was like flipping through them, like going through them. Like, nah, this needs to be reorganized. Y'all need to fix your stuff half price books. It's like I want my Cyberforce annual number 3. All right.
Must be great to have like 10 comics in your area, eh? We've got like 2 comic shops, and one sucks.
Yeah, the one I go to doesn't really have any back issues anymore. It's pretty crappy.
That's why. I know there's this let me see.
Because I actually starting ordering comics off mycomic.com, my comic books shop.
How much?
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Well, actually, my comic shop is actually from Texas. There you go, dude. So yeah, Texas connection right there. But the shipping wise, how bad is that? Because I know international.
It equals out, like, because comics here, how much is a standard comic in America? It's like $2, $3.
$3.99 if you're lucky, if not $5.
Okay, so it's like $5 or $6 here.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, so it's like $6-7 if you're lucky.
Yeah, so the postage evens out when you if I was to buy from my comic store, it'd be about the same price, but they don't get a lot of back issues in. And it's nice to go on and just like look for what you want, because I'm grabbing some Battle Chasers because I had Battle Chasers and I don't know where it's gone. Some Justice League, some Phantom Guard. Who remembers Phantom Guard?
Phantom Dart?
Guard.
Phantom Guard. Oh, I don't remember that one.
I know Phantom Girl and Phantom Lady, but I don't know Phantom Guard.
I mean, how could you forget Phantom Lady though, bro? Like, it's kind of hard. Very
no
memorable.
He got killed by Deathstroke. It was like pretty full on.
That's messed up though. There's actually a good shop. The main one I use is Midtown Comics.
Yeah.
I went through there, and that's where I cleaned up. Like, I think I went through like most of their Cyber Force and Wetworks and everything they had, and just like bought the cheapest copies because they like near mint or whatever. It's like 70 cents for a comic, and I'm like, hell yeah, get that.
Dang. You know what's funny is that so there's this these folks on Twitter named All About Comics, and I've been following I always post about comics and stuff like that, and they're like, oh yeah, we got the new issues for New Comic Day, oh yeah, we got these old obscure comics or whatever, and I hit them up, I'm like, do y'all do mail orders? And they're like, yeah, we do. And I was like, do y'all happen to have She-Hulk issue number 54 to 59? There's the Live and Die in LA arc that was 6 issues. The first issue was by it was interiors and the cover was by Adam Hughes, and then the rest of them were really good.
Nice.
So they were like, yeah, we got them, and I was like, okay, well, can you? I don't live in your area. It was, we can do mail orders. It's 2-day shipping, so it's supposed to come in tomorrow, and I'm just over here. I'm like, oh my god,
like a junkie waiting by the door, like, come on, man, come on, I need
dude, you're laughing, but
I need my foil fixed.
I thought it was coming in yesterday because they said, it'll be in tomorrow, and it shipped tomorrow. I was like, man, what are you talking? Every time the mailman came, I was like, looking out the window, the dude was like, what's this guy doing, man? He's like being all creepy. I was like, where are my She-Hulk comics, man? Where my stuff, man? Where's my stuff?
Tyrone Bigum's just out there scratching your stuff, like, man, you got the comics, plus yet?
For real, dude. If you would have told me a year ago that I would be into She-Hulk and Power Girl and I would buy the trade paperbacks, I would look at you and I'd be like, you're out of your mind. There's no way in a million years that I would ever do that. Turn around now, I'm like, I got to get all the She-Hulk books. I said, I got the John Byrne return trade, but I got to get all of them, man.
You're so lucky. I can't get those.
Oh.
They're really expensive to get here.
Oh, well, can you do, maybe they do international mail orders at that for that comic book shop. Maybe you can hit them up. I know shipping was $7 for me, so that was the thing that hit me, because it was $25 plus shipping was $32. But that's 6 good comics. That's
not bad, man. Considering most of these orders and Indiegogos, it's $10 for shipping, and it's one book, and you're getting a ton of books and pretty quickly. So it's you can't really complain too much. You touched upon, and I joke about you being kind of the junkie needing the comic fix. I bought the Wetworks. I'd never read Wetworks to my knowledge. If I had, I completely forgot, which has happened. I'm like, oh yeah, this is seeming familiar. If I'm reading something I hadn't read in a long time, I'm reading Wetworks, and the first arc is 3 issues. The first 3 issues, that's the first arc, and it's Will Tascio, it's Brandon Choi. Brandon Choi co-wrote Wildcats with Jim Lee, and I'm reading this. I'm like, this is some good comics. These military, but without being G.I. Joe corny military. It's straight up stuff. It's we got the GPS coordinates. We're over somewhere over even though it's kind of goofy, we're over Transylvania. They're taking it seriously because it's basically Wetwork Special Forces soldiers versus vampires, and they get these golden symbiotes that allow them to protect them from damage. It's almost like a video game. The symbiote can only take so much damage from many directions. It can compensate any damage incoming, but if it's overwhelmed, the person can die, and it happens in the first issue. It's oh wow, this is really, and he's telling his team, this is a comic from 93, and he's telling his team stay frosty, and I'm like, stay frosty, that's some modern warfare, Call of Duty kind of stuff, but it's
wow,
10, 15 years too early. It's whoa, there must be some military jargon that was going along. Nobody knew about it till Call of Duty. But the art is great. Like, men are just buff machines, like the machine guns. The chicks are hot. The tech looks great. And somebody was saying like, oh, it looks like somebody compared it to that Jawbreakers, and I'm like, this is just fun. So I picked up.
Does it have a giant ape though, like Jawbreakers?
Doesn't need it. It's got vampires. It's basically it's the Predator team from Predator versus.
What I don't get about Jawbreakers is we saw that the giant ape was like getting its eye knocked out and like getting all shot and cut up, and then they're supposed to be like allies. How do they help the ape?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Do they heal it? Do they heal? Like, put
just
his
don't
eye
think
back?
too hard about it, man. Just don't let it happen.
That's why I
Wait
like.
and see what happens with
There was a panel with his eyeball on the ground, and they're driving around it, and then whenever he pitches the book, he says they're friends with the apes. So maybe there's two apes.
See that right
Maybe
there.
that's
That's
just
why
like the introduction.
it could be. It could be a flash forward or something. But that's why I like Wetworks, because they keep to the it feels natural, even though it's like about a special forces team fighting vampires with golden symbiotes and heavy machine guns and stuff. It feels grounded.
We need creature commandos.
It's kind of like Creature Commandos if you took it super like if Creature Commandos is written like a Tom Clancy novel. That's what it feels like.
Really?
And, yeah, it's
With
like
a bit of
really
90s
well done.
kind
It's
of
like
thrown in.
it's. I think you should pick it. Like I got the first 3 issues for like $2. It's like because it was because nobody really wants them. They're not collected. They are collected, but finding the trade paperback is a nightmare because I look for it.
It's impossible to find some of these trade paperbacks.
Yeah, you ain't joking, man. And it's like I used to be so simple, but I guess more people talked about it, and like the harder it's got to get your hands on. But I messed up when I placed my order through Midtown Comics. I thought I ordered the first 7 issues. I ordered 1 through 7, but I forgot to place an order for issue 5. I guess I clicked on it and unclicked it because the mouse I had at the time was messing up. So I got my new mouse. My new mouse ain't much better, and I must have unclicked it. So I got issue 4, and I'm looking at 4 to 6. Where's 5? And I thought I did. They messed me up or whatever. They didn't ship it. No, I forgot to place the order. Like, no. So I'm having to wait for issue 5 to finish reading Wetworks, and it's killing me.
That's horrible,
dude. If you tell me, Larry, you want Wetworks? You want to read Wetworks? Like, shh, yeah, whatever. And like actually read it. It's like, I need more. I need more Wetworks.
It's like I need more than Wetworks, man. I need more.
Single issues are pretty cheap.
And it's one of the craziest things is that, okay, I'm going to state this. I'm not going to, well, that's a lie. I'm going to bring it up again. They ruined Ballistic on Cyberforce, man. Like, I'm still, I don't think I'm ever going to get over that, bro. Like, if you read the 90s run, her and Stryker have like this weird, like, well, it's not weird. It's just both like really damaged and like aren't willing to like talk about like how they feel. So, they have like this, I kind of like you, but I ain't going to say anything. And then even if you look at the Cyberforce one with Kenneth Rockerford, man, she's like just doesn't take any mess. She walks in there and she has like a huge like Gatling gun that's like twice the size of her. I'm just like, what in the world? Like even in the Velocity like series, like her sister, it says, yeah, she's like adorable when she's like not punching people in the face and like getting hammered and everything, like in a cute trashy way. And I'm like, I love her character. What do? They ruin her on the new run, and they're like, oh, y'all are just hateful, like, bigots. Not even bigots, just hateful fanboys. And I'm just like, dude, look at what came before and look what you did. What makes you think, like, that was going to be okay? Yeah, so...
That's why, like, I know that Brian Edward Hill, he's like, like, that, everybody's, like, praising him because he's getting some, like, love in the community, in this comic community we're part of or whatever. But, like, dude, I don't think I'll ever forgive you for allowing that mess to happen, that Cyberforce book, because he's a part of that. Him and Matt Hawkins, he shares as much blame as Hawkins, and Hawkins, like, we saw how his reaction was.
He's like, why is everyone so angry on Twitter?
Because we want a 90s comic. Give us what we want. At this point, like that Wildcats book, not Wildcats, a Witchblade book they put out. Like Witchblade, I was a huge fan of the 90s. I read it up to like early 2000s or so. But that run, like that, it gave you a badass chick, great art, good action, and they didn't mess around. But you look at this new one, it doesn't look like Witchblade. It's like, what is this? They call it Witchblade, and there's like nothing, like there's no oomph to it. It looks like some like cheesy young adults novel.
That's how all of these characters are now. All these cool IPs like her and Vampirella, you know, all of the Dynamite characters that they've accumulated, you know, they really aren't being used properly, I think.
Well, you bring up a great point, because I actually picked up, there was a Vampirella Wetworks Vampirella 2 issues, or each one of them were one-shots. One was published by Image, the other one published by Harris, and it's, you know, Wetworks, you know, fights vampires, and Vampirella is a vampire, so there's kind of a little, you know, miscommunication. And it was like the cover, it's like a beautiful cover by Michael Bayer, Bair. He did work on the Justice, I believe it was not Justice Society, but it was one of the DC books with it's like the sons and grandchildren of the original Justice Society of America. It was like with Director Bones, Mr. Bones, and a couple other stuff in the 80s. And his work on
Infinity Inc., right?
Infinity Inc., that's it.
Yeah.
And beautiful cover, because the artist on the interior, they didn't have that cover available, so I wanted to buy that cover. But I also wanted that cover because it's a great looking cover. Scary Mother. There's a character called Mother One. She's basically more machine than woman, but you know, like banging bod, but it's covered in golden metal, and she's got both robot arms because it's kind of weird looking. But you know, as DC Fans United said, she's scary looking. But
it was that cover. Yeah, she had too many abs. I mean,
it was like, well, that's the thing. It's like maybe that gold is like maybe enhancing what she's got, you know. But
you guys need to send me this picture. I'll be the one to.
You know what? I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah.
I'll look it up real quick. But
I'm looking at the covers for the new Witchblade, and you're right. That looks freaking horrible. Where's her armor? Where's like what made Witchblade?
Well, they're saying that the reason that like the 2 women that wrote it are saying they're getting rid of the male gaze. And when they mentioned that, I was like, oh, of course. This is
notice that you got to have a female writer for any female character now.
Female, yeah.
Like Wonder Woman is a prime example now.
Oh yeah,
like,
G. Willow Woods and just like on
oh
there,
my
right?
goodness.
Yeah, like I posted, these Dame comics gonna need a Dame to write them.
Dude,
DC,
like I'm just gonna keep on digging back. Like I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna get the Star-Lord Guardian of the Galaxy like trade with like the old Marvel Presents. You know what? Screw this. I'm gonna get Volume 2 of Jim Valentino's Run of Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm just gonna keep on going back. Like while everyone else is going forward, I'm just gonna be going back to all these comics and like have a whole bunch of old books, man.
I'm thinking that too. Like, you know, that Action Comics I read for this. What was it? Action Comics, Superman in Action Comics, number 662. So much better.
Yeah.
It's so much better than anything going on with Superman right now. It's crazy. And it was just like a random issue. I mean, 662, but I didn't have to have read the previous issues or the one after it. It was like a nice little complete story that had action and adventure and romance between Lois and Clark. Like, and the art was good, and it had, you know, the little text boxes that aren't necessarily dialogue, so it would tell you a lot without it feeling like too much the way a lot of modern comics are. Like, I like Scott Snyder, but his dialogue just goes for days sometimes.
He's like a mini Bendis at times. Yeah, that's the biggest problem I have with Snyder. Other than, you know, just the fact that some of his plot elements just doesn't hook me. Like, I mean, I know the whole moon being blown up thing. That's in your crawl right now.
I will never forget that. No, it's not even. I'm mad about it. I just think it's kind of like nothing matters. If you blow up the moon in the first issue, it's like, okay. No.
That's how I am. Like when they kill somebody off. Like once you kill a character, it's like, oh, they killed this character. That right there shows me they have no creativity, because that's like the first go-to. It's like if they show the character, like it's like the character died, and then cut to like the prologue or epilogue of that story. I mean, the epilogue, and that character's been like stuck in like a pocket dimension, like in like sort of some like, you know, like, oh, that person's dead, but they're like stuck someplace. Like everybody assumes they're dead, but the reader knows they're not. Like that right there, that doesn't bother me none. Like they got to fight their way back to their home or something along those lines. That's fine with me. But you know, killing a character off, I just, and you know, like I understand saying like nothing. It's just a comic book. Let's have fun. And I can enjoy that to a degree, but I understand where you're coming from. But here's that cover. This cover right here. When people say it would trigger, like, oh, you're triggering. This cover would trigger a bunch of people. I mean, the fact that it's being very blunt about what it is. So, thoughts, opinions.
Well,
Which
Vampirella looks great, but yeah, the other character just looks weird to me.
Yeah, she has too many abs. It's a little creepy.
Right? That's what I said. That was the first thing.
4, 5, 6. She's got 6 within that right there. Yeah. It's a little.
It looks like she has a 12-pack, but then her ribs are. Man, she needs to go. Whoever drew this needs to go back on Anatomy 101, bro.
No, I don't know, man, because look at that Vampirella. Yeah,
but she doesn't have like 30 abs, bro.
Well, I think because like Wetworks is all like every person has like bunch of abs. It's like ab. It's a part of the thing. It's like that's the image.
It looks like a corn on the cob, bro. That's what it looks like. It looks like a corn.
It really does.
Dipped in some butter.
Dipped in some butter.
I think if it was on a male, maybe if it was on a man, it wouldn't look so bad.
But speaking of Vampirella, I also read another book. I picked up the trade paperback. It was only $5, so I couldn't pass it up. It was Lady Death, The Reckoning, which is the first 3 issues.
Oh yeah.
And it was really good. It was like I'd say the art was a little amateurish for most people's takes. I actually liked it because I like all kinds of art. It could be amateur hour, or it could be fine art. Like your it almost looks like wood carving or something on those lines. My tastes vary. It's all about how you use it. But that Lady Death was really great, and I was like, this is a 25-year-old book. And you'd see this book, even if you didn't pick it up, you'd see that book around. You'd see ads for it in the comics. You'd see it in Wizard. You'd see it in all this, that. But for some reason, it just doesn't have that. Like, now I know it's back. I know they brought it back, but it just ain't the same. Well, the original artist, he passed away in like 2000. So it just like his version of Lady Death is the Lady Death I like to see, and that'll never happen again because he's passed away. So it's one of those tough choices right there. So
did anyone see the movie, the Vampirella movie?
Oh, there was a Lady Death movie. There was an animated Lady Death.
Oh, the Vampirella movie that was from the 90s.
Yeah, yep. I actually rented that from the video store. Oh, video store, and
on YouTube too. Full video, and it's weird too because it's got nudity and stuff. Like it just flew under the radar. I think because it's in French or something. But yeah,
no, that's an English one I watched.
No, the one on YouTube. I'm saying there's a full copy of Vampirella from '96.
Okay.
Yeah, that's got Talisa Soto in it. And it's no, it ain't Talisa Soto. It is Talisa Soto. Yeah, from Mortal Kombat. It's Katana from Mortal Kombat, if I'm not mistaken.
But yeah, I watched that, and it's like the storyline is hilarious. I think it was Vampirella, where at the end it was just a game. Spoilers, but it was just a game between Vampirella and the main bad guy because they do it every 100 years because they get bored or something. So let's just like do this whole stuff, like manipulate all these people just because it's fun. Is that the one?
I don't think so. Maybe. I mean, did she fly to Earth in a spaceship in the beginning?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Maybe
my God, the 90s was full of these like weird things. Like you had that, and you had, we had the Spawn movie, but then that's so weird. It's like McFarlane hit almost everything out of the park after he left Marvel, and he actually stuck to his word. He's like, I'm not coming back to you DC or you Marvel. And look what happened. Larson came back. Jim Lee came back. Rob Liefeld came back. Jim Lee, he's a hack, as far as like, he's like, don't stick to his guns. He jumped back to Marvel like 3 years later, and then less than a decade later, he's over at DC. So yeah, it's like now he's running basically DC. But McFarlane said, nope, I'm gonna do my own thing. He did Spawn, great comic. I still stand by it. Artwork, everything. I know a lot of people, they don't care for Greg Capullo. I don't know where they're coming from. Hey, we all like what we like, but Greg
Capullo's amazing, though.
I
know. It's a really
huge fan. I like Greg Capullo. I have more respect for him because of my mate who was more into Image Comics than I was because I was doing the X-Men thing at the And he got me into Image, and he's a huge fan of Greg Capullo. When Greg Capullo was jumping on Batman, me and my mate started collecting Batman because of that. And yeah, I have a lot of respect for a lot of these artists because of my mate. Because he's a huge Image fan. Huge Image fan. He collected everything Image ever released.
You know, it's
didn't he draw Wonder Woman for a while too?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're thinking of Mike Deodato Jr. He did the 90s Wonder Woman where she was like, you had Artemis as Wonder Woman, and you had Diana in her jean jacket, like looking like Courtney Cox, and Courtney Cox was in the club. I actually kind of like that costume in a weird way. Yeah, that jean jacket look. Yeah, it's like it's so 90s, but I liked it. It kind of worked in a weird way.
Part of it, I don't know. It's kind of cool to get like crazy costumes like that every now and then to shake things up. I think that's probably like, to be honest, that's probably why I like Red Hood Now Outlaw so much, because it feels like a 90s Image comic. Like, it feels like what a Top Cow comic should be. Fun writing, dope art by Dexter Soy, and cool action. Like that's what Top Cow should be. Top Cow's trying to do something. I'm like, no, y'all guys are like the Image 90s modern take on comics. Stop doing all this other stuff. Just be who you are. Be yourself. Stop doing all this extra stuff. But I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. But like, I liked a lot of those changes with those costumes. I need to find that Artemis run. I was curious to check it out. It's kind of hard to find those older Wonder Woman comics, though.
Was anyone reading Red Hood and the Outlaws? Is it worth reading?
Yeah. I've been reading. Yeah. Kev Rockerfort was on there for a couple issues. Then he left, and I guess he left to do some art for Sideways, which he later left after the 3 or 4 issues. I'm so glad I didn't get a pull for that. Something told me, it's like, he's going to leave after 3 issues. I just know it. I
really didn't like Sideways anyway. I thought it was just not worth it.
Yeah, I think you did a video on it or something like that about like how you felt it was like a waste of time.
For
sure.
Like
Spider-Man with portals. Is that what it is?
Yeah, basically Spider-Man with portals.
Like a less intelligent, more irresponsible Spider-Man with portals. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at current Spider-Man, then they're about the same, I guess.
Really? I guess I don't keep up with Marvel, but man, this
I collected so much Spider-Man comics.
The only Marvel comic that I'm reading and have on my pool that I actually enjoy is Marvel 2-1. I've yet to find an issue that I just hated. Every issue I've like, okay, this is decent to like really good, in my opinion.
That's some solid stuff then, because I mean, like, you look at the 90s, Fantastic Four, like, it was very hit and miss in the 90s for Fantastic Four, but yet Spider-Man, you have Maximum Carnage, which got a freaking video game. How many, not only did Spider-Man get a video game with Maximum Carnage, but you also had the Death and Return of Superman, got a video game as well.
Yeah. Was that on any system other than the Super Nintendo?
Sega Genesis, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Genesis.
Was it on there too? Oh, okay.
But very, very expensive on the Genesis. Like, to get a copy of Maximum Carnage on the Mega Drive, or Genesis, I guess you guys call it, it's very expensive, up to $1,000 apparently for some strange reason. It's like.
I wish I maybe look that up, because the thing about it is I actually have a copy with the box. I don't have the book, but I have the box. So
shit.
Damn.
I mean, it's not that rare on Super Nintendo, I don't think.
I know people say Super Nintendo has the better sound, better sound than the Genesis. I like the deep bass of the Genesis of Maximum Carnage with the music and everything, but. For a standard beat 'em up, it's really fun, but the comics really hold up for like that. When you want an event comic to be like over the top and like Michael Bay in the best ways, not in the like 2.5 hours of whatever CGI headache-inducing vomit, a computer-inducing CGI vomit, but with Maximum Carnage, it worked great. Spider Clone Saga, the Clone Saga stuff, that was a big dud, but. You had Onslaught. You had all these really big event stuff. You had Onslaught, which led into Heroes Reborn, and just until recently, because Heroes Reborn, I dropped out like after the first few issues because they were just hard to come by. And then turns out, I didn't find out till like a month or two ago that the 13th issue, I always thought there was only 12 issues, because when you see the collections, like a comic shop, not the online store, but my local comic shop actually had the Fantastic Four Heroes Reborn book, which I was like, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be all Jim Lee. Jim Lee doesn't even do the whole 12 issues. He only does like 5 of them. And he gets other people to, like, that's the thing. He couldn't commit to it. That's
four more than he did on Immortal Men.
There you go. He didn't even do a whole issue on Immortal Men, but with
he did the
that
first
being the
issue, I think.
He did only I thought he only did like 16 pages of the first issue or something. I thought that's what you told me. I thought that's what you said in your video.
That could be. It's been a while. I know he just did the first issue and the first 2 covers.
That is so sad, man. Wasn't you, Larry, and Daniel were talking about the Joe Duffy run of Catwoman? Like, that guy was on there for like 5 years on that Catwoman comic.
Oh, you mean the Chuck Dixon, Jim Ballard one, the Catwoman?
Yeah. Oh, so Joe Duffy didn't write that?
Oh no, it was Chuck Dixon.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of Chuck Dixon and Catwoman, he did a Vampirella crossover in the 90s as well.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
In 1997. I'm looking at the cover too. It's really nice.
I might actually have to take a look at that. I might be able to find it pretty cheap online, but
it's on Amazon. Let me see.
Well, the funniest thing is, like, when I found out that there was 13 issues to those Heroes Reborn books, and it was basically a Wildstorm crossover, Image Wildstorm crossover, because you had Maul from Wildcats in a Fantastic Four costume. It was bizarre. I was like, no wonder it's not collected, because it's like, now at this point in time, it's a DC property. Wildcats, that is.
Yeah.
So it's like,
felt like more experimental. Like, everybody was trying everything, throwing everything at the wall at the time.
Now we can't even get things that should be no-brainers. Like, I think I brought this up. I was like, you know who would be great to be on She-Hulk? Have Amanda Conner and Jim Palmiotti do it. But apparently, Marvel did them in a few years ago, and they were just like, we're not coming back to Marvel.
Yeah, I was going to say about Jimmy Palmiotti. I thought he only did work for DC, but he could be freelance.
He did Daughters of the Dragon over at him and Kari Evans.
I mean, currently.
Oh yeah, currently.
Currently, no.
This is about maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago or so. Well, probably close to a decade, between 5 and.
He did Claws as well.
He did that Claws, but yeah, it's like this. You think, like, it just goes to show like how Joe Quesada really treats his buds. He tastes for power and he throws them to the wolves. But yeah, it's like that right there is pretty messed up. The fact that and he's like taking a character like Jonah Hex and like having like multiple ongoing runs with a cowboy western book. I mean, that's crazy, especially this day and age. But people like Jonah Hex. But go ahead.
I just think it felt like the companies were working together more as a common good for the comic industry back in the 90s than they are now. I mean, we got
for sure. They did the whole crossover.
Yeah. Remember, what was it called again?
Just Marvel versus DC Universe. I think.
Amalgam comics afterwards.
Yeah, I got the Wolverine Batman crossovers. I've got the OK one
Dark
and the
Claw.
one. Dark Claw.
Punisher too. Didn't Punisher and Batman crossover a couple times?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the when the Amalgam, like there were the Versus books, and then after that,
the Wolverine Batman. Okay.
Yeah, and then there was the crossovers because there was one of my favorite ones, which I think just went under people's radar because it looks like a throwback to the '60s. It was Roger Stern writing it and Steve Rude doing the artwork. So there you go, tells you how good.
Oh man, Steve Rude. Oh man,
Superman
about
Hulk.
Nexus.
Dude, Superman Hulk. It was heartbreaking, beautiful, all at the same time. It worked great, and it's like Steve Rude is a boss. He just can kill a Nexus.
He is good, man. God. Dude, I need to get the rest of the omnibus. Like I blitzed through the first omnibus on Comixology. Like it was ridiculous. I was like, and it's funny because I went to the comic book shop and the guy working there, old guy, right? The one that's been through 3 marriages and all that stuff. He always tells me this story every time I talk to him. I was like, why do you keep on telling me this, bro? I don't even know you. So, like, he was just like, and he was rocking a Nexus. I was like, yo, is that Nexus? And he just looked at me. He was like, oh, yeah, I mean, that's outside. Some dude in his truck or
Maybe
whatever.
It's the postman.
Yeah. Man, maybe it's my She-Hulk comics, bro. They're like, Braylon, we heard you talking trash about us on YouTube. We got you, bro. We got those comics for you, bro. Yeah. But like, and he was like, I was like, is that Nexus? And he just looked at me. He's like, yeah. I was like, how would you know that? And I was like, yeah, it's crazy just going back and reading these older stories because I'm like, it would be cool if we got this. Oh yeah, it came out 20 years ago. I was like, Larry Stroman and Chuck Dixon did the second volume apparently to Alien Legion. So now I got to go and get the volumes. I only have issue 1 of the first volume and issue 1 of the second volume. So I have to actually go back and like get those. So that's on my ever growing of list. That's just, man, like this list is not going to end, bro. Like every time I look up on Twitter, it's like adding to the list.
Look at it this way: it's better to add to it and have more choices.
That is true because people were saying there's no books to read. I'm like, are you serious? Like on Comixology, I have the first 4 volumes of John Byrne's Fantastic Four Essentials on there. I only read the first issue of the first volume, and I'm just sitting here. I'm like, I got too much stuff to read, bro. I was like, this is like too much good stuff to read to complain about some stupid thing that somebody said at Marvel or whatever. I was like, there's too many good books. People are like, oh, well, I'm not going to read the Catwoman run or something like that. I was like, did you ever read Catwoman to begin with? I never understood why people will say, I'm not going to buy it. I was like, but were you going to buy it in the first place? Like, you don't even, read these stories. They're like, oh, look what they did to Power Girl. I was like, did you even read the Power Girl comics? No. I was like, were you buying a Power Girl comic? No. Would you buy one? No. Okay, what are you complaining for, bro? Unless you're going to put
Spider-Man. I used to collect Spider-Man quite a lot, and then it kind of went downhill. And now I don't even want to look at Spider-Man. I don't even care if they get rid of One More Day and everything. I'm done. Spider-Man is just not good anymore for me.
And then they're even like apparently the guy that did the art for Invincible. I think I read like 1 or 2 issues. It's not really for me. I don't know. Maybe I'll come back to it later, but it's not really my thing. The artist Ryan Oatley, like people are retweeting the creepy psycho girlfriend face that Mary Jane made in one of the panels, right? I was like, well, at least Peter Parker and Mary Jane are like in a relationship. That's pretty good. But like he was just saying, he's like, guys, like I was burning both candle on both ends. He's like, I was doing the pencils and inking it to meet the deadline. I was like, so basically they just burn out the artists and then just throw them out, like trash, and then just get another guy that they can hire for cheap. I was like, it's ridiculous, man.
It was a double-sized issue, not mistaken. I actually did read it. I didn't flaunt it. So, oh yeah, I read this. It's like because I'm not a Spider-Man fan. I'm not a Peter Parker Spider-Man fan. I'm not a Miles Morales, Miguel O'Hara. I'm a Miguel O'Hara fan. Or
2099.
Yeah, 2099. And also I'm a bigger fan of Mayday Parker Spider-Girl. I like her more. That's the Tom DeFalco stuff, which started as a what if story, and they made it a reality. And I think ever since What If ended with, like when we launched the Spider-Girl book, every what if has basically become a reality. Like, what if Captain America was evil kind of thing? There we go. What if Thor was a woman? Jane Foster picks up the hammer, and in the book it becomes Thordis. And it's weird because Baldar is hitting on her. And it's like, dude, it's Jane Foster's body, but you're hitting on your buddy Thor. It's like, I don't know. Thou has nice asses.
Oh my god.
It's weird, man. It's really weird. But this idea of, like these comics that have come out in the past and have disappeared, like I'd rather see like a what if book than there's like what if one shots they do. But
they should bring that back.
They really should, but
they're not going to. That would be like they'd actually have to be creative and actually care about what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We need Elseworlds again.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what that Black Label's kind of supposed to be now.
Much. Yeah.
But DC, it's like DC and Marvel. I think the image creators uniting together, telling these big two to piss off that we're going to do our own thing. Most of them stayed away. Well, part of them stayed away for a while. The rest of them kind of just back down on that. But they look what happened right after Image got founded. You had Marvel and DC doing everything they could to be sensational and capture attention. It was 90s was a perfect storm for the sales, #1 success. But that means it sold to the shops, and that's why you still see a lot of #1s sitting in dollar bins and stuff. it's because they were sold to the shops, and shops bought a lot, but not many customers came. If they did, they eventually returned or sold the books back. But this, like you had Death of Superman, you had Tony Stark going mad and then having to go through the time stream and grab a younger Tony Stark. You had Wolverine getting his adamantium ripped out. You had all this stuff go on. Batman get his back broken.
Back in.
Yeah, the whole Nightfall.
Nightfall, like everybody looks at, oh, Bane's is a stupid villain. Chucked out of all these events, like they actually all, in hindsight compared to now, which is, go 20, hindsight being 2020. At the time, people were like, oh, that's so stupid, whatever. We look at it now, it's like, look how bad it's gotten. What was stupid then is genius now. And but the Nightfall book was amazing and is well written. It's like Bane. Bane was the dog who chased after the tire on the car. He actually caught up to it. And what happens? His life is, he fulfilled everything he wanted. Now he's got nothing going on until Azrael shows up, and Azrael becomes a real bad guy until Bruce has got to come back and take down Azrael. So that works.
Yeah.
Now, like, we don't, like, speaking of costumes, I'm a huge fan of the black and silver Superman, like with the mullet. I mean, I love that. As bad as it is, big old gun, mullet, I like it. I Kryptonian healing coma.
Electric blue Superman is the that's the 90s suit for me.
Do you go blue? Yeah, because you go blue, not the red, correct?
Yeah, I just have the issue where he's blue. I don't have the red ones.
What's I don't care. Red ones? Well, I know about the blue being electric and all that. What's
he was like, there's two versions. It was like there's the blue electric Superman, there's a red electric Superman. The red electric Superman went evil.
Yeah,
of course.
And then the original, because it's like, what is it, from the 60s or something, where they had red and blue Superman originally?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then they kind of brought it back in the 90s. But yeah, everyone craps on electric blue Superman, but I thought it was kind of cool. Like, they had to make a special suit to contain him because he is electricity. And, he was kind of nerfed in some ways because he was like less strong, but he could do different things. I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I think, Tim in the chat brings up something, 90s sitcom Superman. When Superman has the same haircut as Danny Tanner from Full House, something's up.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man. The 90s, that's more just the 90s fashion than, like, anything else. Some of that stuff is so cringy, though. It doesn't age well at all.
You know what the biggest cringe character is, though? Grunge from Gen 13. As soon as that character was named, he was already out of date. I mean, that thing was past date. That was pure cringe. He just really cringe because it's
Did
such.
Collect that like Gen 13.
I have the books. I have that first trade paperback collected in the miniseries, but I hate Grunge as the character. I hate that character Grunge. Freefall, I like Rainmaker. I actually like Rainmaker a lot because there's not too many Native American characters that survive a long time in comics. Usually they get killed off like Thunderbird in the X-Men. Hey,
Dawnstar from the Legion of Superheroes is Native.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's a few, but it seems like
it's like Danny Moonstar. Where's she been from New Mutants and X-Force? Have they even brought her up?
I don't know, man. That's the thing. It's like, well, X-Men's such a mess over at Marvel. Like, who knows at this point?
Timber in the Immortal Men too is a current Native American.
Okay, well, you have to go and bust my balls over here. You're trying to ruin my point. I mean,
no, it's just something I find really interesting.
All Australian characters are Aboriginal, and they're like totems and stuff like that, or shamans like Gateway.
What about Captain Boomerang?
Captain Boomerang, yeah. Okay, I'll give you that. I always thought he was British more than Australia. I don't know why. He just doesn't seem that Australian.
Does he?
Well,
they the boomerang part, but honestly, boomerang. That's stereotypical.
Yeah. They went full bogan in the Suicide Squad movie, which made me laugh so hard. It's like my friend he sent me these videos way before Suicide Squad, but it's like the Australian version of Cops, or it might be Cops or whatever. But it's like this dude, he just crashed his car. Like, he drunk driving, crashed his car, and decides to slide over into the passenger seat, act like nobody was on the car, just did it by himself. He's like, just wait for my mate, It's just like, it's so dumb. It's like, and the cop's like, please get out of the vehicle. Well, I'm just waiting. Like, and there's like a skid mark and broken glass and a bent pole. And he's just, it's so funny. It's like just like a bogan. There you go. But it's just
into the shop for a chico roll.
Oh God, I do know one thing. If any comic artist draws an Australian character drinking Foster's, then they did not do their research good enough.
No,
You do
only bogans drink Foster's. I don't drink alcohol at all. But
I don't
my
either,
mates
so.
who do, if my mates do, they don't drink Foster's. Foster's is literally the ground level bogan drink.
It's the piss water.
What's piss water in America?
Budweiser, I guess.
Yeah, it's like the Budweiser with those stupid ads. Yeah, I like to punch somebody for those ads, those Budweiser ads, you know, where they go, "Mel," you know what they say on the phone?
Oh God, the ones from the 90s that still haunt us to this day.
My friend used every time she answered the phone, she'd do that. I've forgotten what
What's
they say.
up? That was up. Oh,
I was like,
I'm sorry.
Seriously, stop saying that. Honestly. Oh, North Korea? Hello? No, I'm kidding.
Oh shit. But you know, these characters, like with, you know, hindsight being 2020, Flash under, you know, who shall not be named.
No, here we go.
But Mark Wade, he could be as batshit insane as everybody plays him out to be, because he probably is. Who knows? He says he has mental issues. He has blackouts. He does stuff. I don't know. But I do know that his Flash is amazing. His Justice League Year One, if you've never read it with Barry Kitson's artwork, holy shit, it is great. It's like when people look back and everybody says, like, you know, Watchmen, and you know, Watchmen did heavily inspire Incredibles. But Mark Waid, like looking back at Justice League Year One, you know, I see nothing but the Incredibles there. It reminds me of, like, this is what the backstory of the Incredibles would be, which is very fitting because he did write the some Incredibles comics when he was over at Boom Studios. They're actually really good. I think that Marcio Takara did the artwork, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it was like actually pretty fun comics. But you have these great books in the 90s, though I never really got into Humberto Ramos's, you know, the Impulse books with know, like I never like the Big Feet. It's like I know it's super cartoony, but it's the wrong kind of cartoony. I'm more of the Dan DeCarlo, kind of the cutesy girl Archie comics kind of cartoony than the giant feet with big hands and goofy faces, waka waka.
So you're more like of a pulp cartoony type, old time cartoony style.
Yeah, newspaper cartoony less than like Humberto Ramos's art reminds me of like really bad graffiti characters. Like
man,
like you see, like
hasn't he? Is he more realistic, or hasn't he changed?
Oh, he still does stupid. Like everybody has like square fingers, and where the wrinkles where a knuckle would be, he has like swirls. Last time I checked. So yeah, his style is still very cartoony. It's probably improved a bit. It's more like Chris Bachalo. But oh my God, speaking of Chris Bachalo on Generation X, and he did Death, the High Cost of Living with Neil Gaiman. To go from that, you look at his artwork then, and you look at it now. It's like, what have you done? What have you become?
I always said his last name is Bocello. Chris Bocello. That's what I always thought his last name was.
I thought it was Bachalo. Well, because that's another thing. Comics, you only see like the name, but you never actually hear it aloud. So it's like Bachelo. So I was like Bach, like the composer, Bachalo. That's what it was. Bocello. It could be Bocello. That makes sense too, because Chelo. So cello. So yeah, either way, like, you know what I'm talking about. But
I have that problem all the time with comic book creators' names, and they'll have some crazy name, and I'll have to look up the pronunciation so I can do
I just pronounced their name wrong. Try being an anime manga fan, trying to say their name.
Yeah, but for doing video reviews, if you don't pronounce it right, you're going to have 600 comments every single one saying, "Hey, you idiot, you didn't say it right." And it's like, yeah, well, you probably didn't know that either, you know, like, or you'll make it too, like, you spend all this time making a really long video, and they'll say you didn't pronounce this right. So for stuff like that, I usually look it up. Just
Never,
save
never
myself.
say Legos. Never say Legos. Always say Lego. People do not say like when you say Legos.
Oh.
Hey, since we're talking about artists and stuff, have y'all noticed like your taste in art, like for comics or whatever's changed over time, or has it like kind of been the same? Hasn't really changed that much.
Well, I think it's evolved, but I have not discarded. Like I used to like. I'm still a big fan of. There's an artist. His name is Randy Green. He's actually the first comic artist I ever met. I met him at the Collection Connection comic book convention in a parking lot in Greensboro, North Carolina, outside a comic book shop in Greensboro, of course. And it was on like, this whole tent, like the kind of tents they put up like when they're doing like little raffles and bake-offs and stuff like that. And him and an inker named Rick Ketchum were there, and there's a couple other people. And he was a really cool dude. He was working on Witchblade at the time. This is like tail end of the 90s, like 99. And he's just a really cool dude to talk to and like, just stick to it. It's like kind of, didn't really do a portfolio review. I think I had some of my drawings there. He's like, just, you work on this, work on that. Like, it wasn't like too specific, but it's like it's like stick with it kind of thing. And he's like, keep a day job because his like wife was like working like as a doctor or nurse or something like that, making all the money while he's doing comics. Because comics, he's working Top Cow at the time, but he worked on Cable. He had done X-Men. Like he would eventually do X-Men after that. Some of the X-Men books. But I used to like be huge into Michael Turner until like I started noticing like stuff about his work I didn't like the line work's a little too sketchy and scratchy. The women
I love Michael Turner myself.
The women's breasts don't look right. They look like silicone, like they look like dude bodies, like surfer bodies, but with fake tits. That's hair.
That's what I think. I mean, I don't mind his artwork, but his breasts look like they're stuck to their chest.
Yes.
If you look at real breasts, they kind of jiggle.
Yes.
But Frank Show like that were just stuck.
Frank Show is the greatest and worst thing that ever happened to me because after seeing Liberty Meadows and seeing how
I can't go back.
Michael Turner is like cheap beer compared to the bourbon that is Frank Show.
Michael Turner is like Corona Light, and then Frank Show is like whiskey. Nice fine whiskey.
Nice aged whiskey.
Nice aged whiskey.
There's plenty of examples where Michael Turner draws women perfectly fine. Like if you
except the image I put up with the lopsided tit, like that was just
that
awful,
hurt me
man.
because it was ballistic. It had to be ballistic was the example you had to choose. That like hurt me a little bit.
I wanted that to make you feel good too, man. I wanted to make it like don't stress out about the artwork because I know you're trying to develop your own style and your skills, and it's tough. But like. Look at Michael Turner. This was not his first published comic. This is like many issues down the line. This is like right before he was going to do Witchblade #1. There is no, and also that's another thing. Inking. These inkers, the fact that they're so scared to actually fix the artwork because it's like they're told like you just trace the stuff and like that right there is like that's when you become a tracer instead of an inker. When you just trace the lines there, you don't actually embellish and make it better. But yeah, it's just seeing that, and that hurt. But looking back, my taste, I used to like. There's artists in the '90s at the time I didn't appreciate them for who they were. Like I didn't appreciate Ed McGuinness's work in the '90s, but I
was always a fan of Ed McGuinness.
It was too cartoony for me. That's just so weird. I used to like. I liked Joe Madureira, but I didn't like Ed McGuinness. That was so weird. And same thing with Sam. Like I like Sam Keith. And he did Max, which Jesus, they got a TV show on MTV. It was, it was on MTV for the love of God, and it was so weird. And like, I became to even more. I liked it for its weirdness. But I came to appreciate it even more, now down the line. So, I mean, like, how about y'all?
I think for me, it's been all over the place, man. Like, there's people on Instagram that'll follow or lesser known artists are trying to get big, and I'm like, I'll see them. I'm like, I'm more interested in looking at their stuff because some of the people that are professional, I mean, they kind of just do the same cookie cutter stuff, and they're not willing. I don't know. I guess they're too afraid to kind of just like do their own style It's crazy because when they do that, that's like, oh, I did this sketch or whatever, just for fun. Those are the things that are way more interesting for me to look at than your panels that you did in a comic, because their professional work is like, okay, I got to keep it kind of in line where everyone else is doing. You see their original stuff, I'm like, this is dope. Like Dexter Soy stuff is great, but when you see his like original art that he does, or Paulo Pantanella, it's amazing. Even just looking at all this pulp styled art, Norman Rockwell and all these other guys, I'll see this type of stuff. Frank Frazetta and like Mike Grell. Like I love Mike Grell's stuff. Like whenever he does something, I just get excited. Or Mark Schultz, a lot of that type of stuff. So it hasn't necessarily changed. It's just gotten bigger. Like I'll like someone that does like a manga Eastern styled art style, and then I'll like someone that does a very detailed Western style. So it's kind of all over the place, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you, man. Because it's like I'm all over. Like, I think our main thing is like the more solid their line art is, the more interested in it I am. It's like your Barry Windsor Smiths, your like Frank Miller before the mid '90s had like a very solid art, like very line work and everything. Like and Dave Mazzucchelli. Yeah, these kind of guys appreciate it so much more now. But looks like you want to share something, DC? Like, you got something you want to share? It's like a little icon, like your thing looks like you're sharing a screen or something.
He's like, oh, y'all noobs. Let me show you what real artwork looks like.
He's got himself muted. He's got something.
He's like, I got folders, bro. I got
folders.
I didn't know it was muted. Sorry. You can
okay.
You can just see the folders. You can't see the picture.
Well, you haven't opened it.
Like, if you want to share a video, if you want to share an image or anything, can you do that?
Yeah, you just double click on the image and make it bigger.
That's what I did.
Oh, the only thing I see is like the little tiny image.
Oh, I see it in the bottom.
Oh, there we go.
Corner,
I saw it for a second. This is that's Justice Society cover.
I saw Power Girl, so it automatically gets a thumbs up for me.
What I'm saying though is this is a Michael Turner cover.
You had it clicked on the actual cover because you had it. It was there for a second and then gone. It must.
Yeah.
Thought again.
It did it again. Yeah.
I don't know why it's not showing it. Hang on. I haven't tried to use screen share before.
Yeah, how do you use it? I want to show you that what I was telling you about, the Phantom Guard.
Okay, just click on the image itself.
Does that work?
Yeah,
there you go.
So this is a Michael Turner cover. I think you guys are being a little overly harsh on him.
No, I like his artwork. I was being funny, but like there are certain times when it looks awkward. But
Sure, but he can draw.
He's good.
He can draw boobs if he wants to.
Yeah,
they're kind of stiff though. I like mine a little. I like mine a little more realistically. Sloppy. You know what? A sloppy booty and a sloppy breast. That's fine for me. Not too sloppy. I don't need pig trough. But you know what? Real women, and it's like you can draw stiff boobs, and that's fine. But you know what? Once you climb the mountain, you can't go back down. Yeah. Like,
my God.
I feel like I'm cutting a promo of Michael Turner. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude, but
oh my God.
For hard copy, you want to share something too?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find. I downloaded a picture of that Phantom Guard, and it's really
how about this? Stop screen sharing just in case something pops up you don't want to pop up. Let's just put it that way. Better safe than sorry.
You never know, right?
You never know, man. We don't need to see your porn folds.
Oh no, I've got that. I don't have one. I have. It's called streaming.
Oh. Okay.
Guys, I've seen Ed McGuinness's work before, but like I'm seeing some of his other stuff. I'm just like, there's a panel. Let me see if I can like just share it with y'all because I'm on my phone, so I can't do screen sharing.
Well, you send it to me on DMs, and I'll share it through.
All right, cool. That's what I'll do. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna send it to you.
But yeah, it's like this. Finding these pages, finding this art, like especially in the '90s. Like I was looking through some of my books, and there's like one in particular that it was a Spawn miniseries. It was Angela miniseries. Angela. They brought her over to. They made her Thor's sister. They made her Thor's sister, but instead of being an agent of heaven, she's like Asgardian or some lame stuff. Like I like the idea. She would hunt demons and other like Lovecraftian like creations, but they nerfed her. That redesign that Joe Quesada did, it was so lame. It's like so toned down. I love that 90s. She's got like ribbons flowing everywhere and sharp metal spikes and the over the top everything, and it took her uniqueness away from her.
And this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Exactly, but to bring that over, and then they Aquaman under their stable for a while and have done nothing with him. I guess that's a good thing, considering they probably screw that up. But it's so weird to see these characters like when they kind of reinterpret them for the modern day. I'm kind of scared to see like some of these people go back to, as much as I love Tony Daniel and his work on the 10th, which is like time. I'm kind of scared with what modern day Tony Daniel would do with the 10th, and
he would tone it down, way down.
He would. It's like the first issue. I'll get the collection real quick. Let's see.
So that's Phantom Guard, if you guys can see that.
Let's see. I'm not.
It showed it for a second, and then it disappeared.
You just talk, and it'll show up on the screen. I'll be quiet for a second.
Yeah. It looked cool.
It's pretty
if you
cool.
if you hard copy, if you talk, it'll actually show up on our screen.
Wildstorm's Phantom Guard.
It's a bit like what was it? Wetworks and all that. Yeah, so they're like a group. I think they're criminals, and they're told to go in and steal something or something. The artwork's really nice. I've forgotten the artist's name. It's probably on there somewhere.
Ryan Benjamin. It says so on the cover.
Yeah, there you go. Ryan Benjamin says on the cover. My reading skills are good. But it's really good. The artwork's really nice. The character designs are like that very kind of 90s, everything's bulky and the women are skinny and all that. But it's got also a unique look to it. I really liked it. My mate introduced me to it. I've got a couple of issues, but I'm trying to get the rest of them. But yeah, I don't know if you guys haven't seen it before. There you go.
Oh, the dude's got some. Whoa, man! This dude's got some dope art. I'm looking at his pencil and line work.
There you go.
Jeez, dude, this guy's killing it.
So I hope I introduced something cool to you guys.
I'm getting kind of depressed, but also excited at the same time. Like, man, tomorrow I gotta work on anatomy and figure how this stupid stuff works, man. They gotta get good, man.
Gotta get good.
Yeah, and what's funny? There's a couple people they'll get back with me, right? Even on Instagram. I'm using Instagram a lot more because I can just tag people and they'll look at it and just DM them. And it went from, oh yeah, this looks good, just work on this and this, to getting paragraphs. Okay, man, we're taking the gloves off. You need to work on this, and this. Okay, you need to look at these. I'm like, whoa, what happened, man? It's like, man, we ain't playing no more. If you're gonna learn, man, you're gonna have to learn, bro. I was like, okay, thanks. I will definitely look into this. So it's funny, but also pretty cool at the same time.
Well, there you go. There's a cover he did. There's a cover by the artist, and he's freaking. His line work's really nice.
Dude, he should have been on Domino, man. Have you seen this Domino sketch he's done? I'm gonna send it later. Maybe he can screen share it.
All right, I can do that.
Think about it.
Well, here's the art of. Let's
Ed McGuinness.
The beginners. I'll wait till you send the other that with the other DM too. I'll go ahead and do all of that once. But I was like looking through the artwork for Tony Daniel. I'll just go ahead and share this. Real quick, this is another thing. I think a lot of times people now, hindsight being 2020, they get very nervous when it comes to these pages. It's like this is the 10th. I mean, big old monster men, sexy women on the covers and everything. You don't get you wouldn't get this today. I mean, you really wouldn't. I mean, I think the next book I want to do is something along these lines, like a monster and a hot chick. You can't go wrong. You like monsters? You like hot chicks? Here you go, 2 for 1. And the first issue starts out with blood everywhere.
My mate had all this. Again, he had a huge comic collection, and I read all his 10th. I remember 10th. 10th was cool.
Yeah, 10th was really cool. It's they didn't mess around. Like they throw you in like on the deep end. His artwork, I really like his line work. It's crisp, but it has almost like an anime feel to it, like an anime manga feel, but without being full tilt. Like
it does. You can see that, yeah.
But it works. I really think. I mean, some of his like line work and everything. His women, not much asses on them, but that's fine. I mean, that's like his
little kid. They
suffering from the Adam Hughes disease.
They look pretty young.
Well, though, like now you're making this creepy, man. Like it's just really,
like she just looks pretty young.
Yeah, like no, like I will say, like ankle, like I joke about like with the whole Michael Turner thing, but Tony Daniel, like boobs aren't supposed to be that high up on the breast, on the chest, on the rib cage.
It needs to be lower on the rib cage, bro. Yeah. Lower in the rib cage.
You were just roasting Michael Turner, and then you show art that's like worse than his.
Oh, don't you dare! Don't you dare! Oh, shots fired over here. Oh,
well, I'm a fan of Tony Daniel.
I know.
The girls there look almost like Michael Turner's. Same.
I like their look
super
better.
Skinny.
The inking, the problem is, like, when Michael Turner would draw women, he'd emphasize the rib cage lines and emphasize, like, when he wouldn't do six packs, but, like the lines, like I guess you say the musculature outline, like that, it would just look. He would emphasize the skinniness of them more.
That's kind of how he drew everyone, though. They're all elongated. It's not just the females.
Well, especially after Witchblade. It started in Witchblade, but it got, especially in Fathom, like that was just like, whoa, like every bean poles.
Well, that was when he had IP, though, and could do whatever he wanted, right?
Yeah, true, very true. But here is the screen share. Here is the Ryan Benjamin Domino piece. And yeah, I agree fully. He should have been the artist on that because, dear God, that's great. Like black and white too, with the washes in gray. So yeah.
Like, could you imagine that? Like her having like a dope miniseries and her like going to Japan and getting in fights with like the Yakuza
or
and
even
the
going like
clan.
China,
or even to sit down and talk about like women's problems and stuff.
The time of the month. Yeah,
we can't talk about how
women can't be tough.
Bastards.
Women can't be tough these days. Like their idea of like to being tough is to be beat upon and nearly raped. That's their idea of character growth. It's like I miss the days where Domino at Operation Zero Tolerance happens. She gets captured by the troops from Operation Zero Tolerance. The Sentinel people, rounded up by Bastion, and had her head shaved and an implant buried in her head so she couldn't use her luck ability. And she went around looking like Ripley from Alien 3, and she's still kicking ass. Like she's like grabbing up she's like a diner and she grabs up like spoons and forks, and like attacking people with it, and knives too. And she ain't taking.
That was pretty sick.
It's like I love that stuff. It's like she doesn't need her mutant ability to be a badass. She's still a badass without her power. It's like the luck is just the extra thing, but it's like now she knows it's like she's like still a badass chick. But here's some of that Ed McGuinness art, and I agree fully. It's like, damn, that's some beautiful artwork.
And like just the way that Storm is drawn, dude. Like, I was like, yo, man.
Well,
she looks amazing.
Here's the Storm right here. It's like
puberty.
Yeah, it's like this right here. Yes, this is a woman hit puberty. Clearly, you could tell she isn't skinny.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about Brian. I'm talking about Brian.
Oh.
He's puberty.
I think if you just screen share, what does it say, entire screen, then you don't have to be talking.
Well, I could do that, but the problem is it might lock in. Because I've had that happen before, where it'll lock in fully. But looking at the Sabretooth right here, showing the power of the monstrous fury that is Victor Creed Sabretooth. It works.
Like this is a video game. But that's what Ed McGuinness, like, is it Ed McGuinness? Yeah. He did,
Ed
like,
McGuinness.
Yeah, he did the style, like the X-Men versus Capcom. That was another, the 90s brought those games out. That's what I'm thankful for, because I love every one of those games.
And then you have to look at I forget his whole name, but like Bengal was the one that did the character designs for those X-Men games. And you see that, and you're like, this is what I think of when I think of 90s X-Men. And that's why, like,
he based it off Jim Lee's style. He based it on Jim Lee's.
And you can really tell that, like, it's just one of those things. It's hard to go back. You know, like, you'll see current X-Men style comics, and you're just like, first of all, the writing isn't really there. Like, it's just in no man's land. There's no A and B point. They're just writing the books to keep them on the shelf because they have to have X-Men because Inhumans didn't work to replace them. But, like, it would be simple. Just make it like the 90s with some modern interpretation, and then just kind of isolate it from everything else that's going on in Marvel. You can have characters pop in, like Captain America or whatever, every once in a while, but let them focus on, like, just the X-Men without, you know, having to deal with everything else going on with, I don't know, Hydra, whatever else is going in Marvel. I really don't even know. I've only been reading Marvel 2-in-1, so I actually don't even know what's going on with everywhere else in those comics.
The last X-Men comic I read was they went into someone's mind because the Shadow King was in there and Wolverine and all that, and they were getting taken over. That's honestly, I can't even remember. I don't even know if I've got those comics anymore.
I think that was I remember that, and it was. Oh, keep on going. What's up?
Well, I collected all of Bendis's new X-Men. Yes, I'm an idiot. I sold them all, and I collected his Guardians. Now, I was kind of into Bendis, but at the same time, I just liked X-Men. And I admit I used to read it once and put it in the stack, and I never read it again. And I sold a heap. Like, I went through everything I have, and I just got rid of everything that's just like, why have I got this? Why have I got this? Why have I got this? But yeah, it's just like the X-Men are supposed to be X-Men. Why aren't they doing X-Men things? Why are they standing around and, you know, freaking talking about Iceman being gay or whatever?
Exactly.
They should be going to... Sorry, keep going.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep on. I want to hear what you had to say.
Well, they're going to asteroids. They're fighting Magneto. They're... what else did they do? They traveled across the world. They like freaking worked for the government. Oh, that was X-Force. But, you know, there was X-Force, there was X-Factor, there was X-Men. Now there's just, I don't know, Iceman, apparently, which has been re-brought back. Like, the first Iceman series was shit and nobody bought it, and so they cancelled it. And they're just bringing it back with the exact same team. Is it the same artist? I know it's the same writer.
I think so.
It's just... It looks terrible. Where's the fun? Where's the high stakes action? Where's it? It doesn't have to be some like Alan Moore level of writing. It just has to be action packed. It has to be like, as you said, like the 90s. It's not that hard. You don't have to write like, you know, a deep metaphorical story. All you have to do is write the X-Men have to fight Magneto, and he's on an asteroid in space, and he wants to wipe out the world with other asteroids or something using his magnetic power. Let them fight them. Or Sabretooth's gotten free, so Wolverine has to find him before he kills it. I mean, it's not even hard. I just came up with, one story is an old story, but the Sabretooth story, I think he's done before too. But I'm just saying, that's all you need to do. It doesn't have to be rocket science. But somehow the X-Men have to sit around and talk about their dentist not using the proper pronouns or some crap like that.
That is sad but true.
What's wrong with the freaking industry at the moment?
Hot dogs is a weapon of hate or bigotry or something like that.
Yeah, hate and bigotry. Yeah, fascism and bigotry was what it said apparently. And it's Nightcrawler who says it. And you know what's crazy? Because of Second Prince, me reading some of those Excalibur issues, Nightcrawler is like a boss, bro. Like he's like got mad game.
Isn't he still like everybody's girlfriend?
Idea. Exactly. Like Captain Britain's getting PO'd because Megan is like you know, swooning over Nightcrawler.
Exactly.
Like a dude that looks like a blue skinned like elf with like 3 fingers on his hands has more game than you, and it's like pulling all the ladies. And he's a swashbuckler. Like he gets in a sword fight with a lady, and he charms her. Like with his smooth talk, like to end the fight. I'm like, and then you go to this dude eating a hot dog and says, this tastes like racism and bigotry. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what is this, man?
It's a difference in writers because, you know, you have Chris Claremont, a dude who could write just amazing dialogue and characters, and he touches upon certain things like most people would not touch upon. And then you'd have like I think was it Matthew Rosenberg that wrote that the same guy that's doing the Punisher book, the new Punisher. So it's like, yeah, this is the quality of writer we got today. We got.
I don't even want to look at Punisher.
It's
after
Punisher Max. After Punisher Max, I'm done. I can't take any Punisher seriously because I don't think anything can beat Punisher Max. And I'm not the biggest Garth Ennis fan, but dear God, that right there, Punisher Max was amazing. But then to see this, it should be no holds barred. But yeah, I'm just stunned by the fact that happens to him. You know,
Cosmic Ghost Rider is the only thing I'm kind of collecting from Marvel, I think. And it's been pretty, like, the first issue was pretty solid, and I'm hoping that they keep, like, going. I want out of this world adventures and all that stuff. And what they're giving us is people talking about being gay.
Yeah. And you know what's even, like, the craziest part is that all the Marvel stuff I've been reading, like, mainly the comics I've been collecting, current comics or Death or Glory, Descender, I just have to wait for trade. I can't, like, that is one of those comics that's actually written for trade, and it's painful to spend $4 on something like that. Death or Glory is the exception to Image, because it's actually a full-length comic. There are no previews. There's nothing. Like, it's like, if you pick it up, it even has like a little bit of heft to it. And I think David, who's actually an artist, does a lot of Conan, like, ink sketches. He was saying how amazing Versus is, so I might give that a chance and collect the trade. But other than that, I've been getting I don't read Batman. All I have is the annual and the issue right after that. Green Lanterns, Red Hood and the Outlaws. Really,
Green Lantern's brilliant.
It's so Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, of course. That's what I've been reading. I was reading Green Lanterns, but, like, there's just so many comics it's hard to keep up with. So I've been waiting for the trade, and it's great.
Cool. Dan Jurgens is going to be writing the Green Lanterns now, right?
That's what I've been hearing after issue 50. I like how
he comes back after we start talking about DC.
Yeah.
Dude, you guys talk about Marvel forever. I was about to friggin' log out.
Oh, no, you weren't.
Okay, we'll move on to DC now.
I mean, I'm exaggerating a little, but it's like, I don't even know what to say. It's like, oh, yeah, Spider-Man. I saw a Spider-Man cartoon in the 90s. So.
Okay, so then if that's the case, DC Comics I'm getting. Red Hood and the Outlaws, Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps. I think that's it. I fell off of Detective Comics after the thing with Tim Drake, and not because I didn't like it. It was just trying to keep up with all these other titles. Batman White Knight, I really enjoyed it. It was great. Hopefully we get volume 2 soon. And Mr. Miracle.
Did you hear about that? The delays? Of course, everything gets delayed at DC, but Mr. Miracle's delayed now.
What?
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Again?
Mitch Gerads posted this on Twitter like 2 or 3 days ago about the last couple issues. He was still drawing them.
Oh my goodness!
That's why we're not talking about DC, because it's been delayed.
Oh my goodness!
Delayed comics.
And you know what's actually funny is that I liked issue. I know a lot of people were giving issue number 9 a lot of crap, but I liked it. I liked the characters and the interactions. There were, because it's basically a negotiation between Apocalypse and New Genesis, and, like, you know, kind of like negotiating so the war will end. But at the same time, like, you know, Mr. Miracle's trying to, you know, he's not trying to look like, you know, like a wuss in front of, like, Big Barda, because, you know, like, any guy would be like, okay, Big Barda's my wife, so I gotta act like, you know, I know what's going on. You know, I can't act like a bumbling fool. But at the same time, I liked how they threw in, like, the moment she actually ends up wearing, like, a Mr. Miracle, like, crop top T-shirt or whatever when they're, like, about to go to sleep or whatever. And, like, he's bugging out. He's like, dude, like, Calibec, like, picked up a dude from under the table and threw him at a wall and, like, killed him. He's like, and he's like, and it, like, you're like, oh my god, like, did he just do that? He just killed this dude. And, like, Mr. Miracle's like, I don't care what you got to say. And as soon as it's over, he's like in the bed. He's like, dude, he like just killed that dude right then and there. He's like, I was about to freak out, man. And, like, it's cool moments like that like really, like, I really enjoy it. So I know Mr. Miracle is going to end after 12 issues. Hopefully we'll get, like, maybe some more, like, Fourth World comics. I need to really go back and check out the other stuff as well that I've missed.
I'll collect that in a trade. Everybody's been going on about it.
It's pretty solid, man. It's
really
I've missed so many issues. I'll just wait for the trade.
Yeah.
I'm more of a trader person.
Sold out, I think, past. They did the 4th printing on the first issue, and then they did a director's cut, and I think that got another
I had to
printing.
I had to get the director's cut because I wasn't.
Well,
I
don't
wasn't
say
at
had
Ray
to.
Book.
That's a good thing. I mean, it would be cool to have both, but I wanted to get the director's cut. It has
I
all the
wanted to
extra
get the
material.
original one, but yeah, it's pretty solid. I just really like it. It's been a while since I've read a comic, like a comic that I'm hyped every time it comes out, and I just get super excited. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy how it's run the Green Lantern course, but Red Hood and Outlaws, Death or Glory, and Mr. Miracle, and Marvel 2-in-1, those are like the books that come out monthly that I get hyped about. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, man, what's gonna happen in Mr. Miracle, or what's gonna happen in Deathstroke? I mean, not Deathstroke. Red Hood and the Outlaws, especially what happened in the recent issue. There was something that happened with the Penguin. I'm not going to spoil it, but you're like, dang, Jason, like you're not playing any games. So those are probably the DC books that I've been really enjoying. I haven't been reading Hawkman. Maybe I'll get around to it in trade, but has there been any other Justice League? I just don't care about Justice League.
Hawkman, 2 issues, I'm freaking hooked. I like the direction they're taking with it, and I love his art, Brian Hitch's art. I like the archaeologist, adventure, something's coming bigger than me. A little bit of superheroing, but not too much. But it kind of fits in with Hawkman because he's always been an archaeologist and an adventurer. So I like that, and I'm really enjoying it. So Green Lantern, that's off the hook. I really like that.
Well, it depends on the backstory for Hawkman. I mean, originally,
don't they reboot it like every incarnation or something like that? They keep on like rebooting his origin story.
Yeah, I mean, he's not even human originally.
Yeah, that's true. He was a statue, wasn't he? And then he came to life.
He's an alien. There's a whole planet of those guys.
He was from Thanagar. He was a cop. He was a cop idiot.
Oh my god!
He was a bird cop.
He was a bird cop from Thanagar, and then he was an ancient prince. It's like,
right.
I like the idea. It's like, how about this? He's a bird cop from like 2,000-3,000 years ago. He crash lands on Earth because of the nth metal. It separates his spirit from his body, so he's still a cop, but he's also a prince because his spirit infests the closest body, and then the closest body would have to be Prince Khufu or something or whatever, and then and he gets to still be a cop, an adventurer, archaeologist, and a badass Hawkman all at the same time. It's like they have to go and screw it up. It's like, dude, it's Hawkman. It's Conan the Barbarian with wings. It's not hard.
Pretty cool though. This has been pretty cool, and I'm really enjoying it. And
well, it's Vendetti writing, right, or no?
I'll have to go into my.
I know it's Brian Hitch doing the artwork. I believe.
Yeah, Brian Hitch.
Yeah, Brian Hitch. Yeah.
I'm a huge Brian Hitch from his Ultimates run. Oops, I mentioned Marvel.
I'm out of here.
You didn't mess up, AA Ron. You didn't mess up. Hey guys, I'm gonna have to head out.
All right, Braylon. Well, thank you for joining us for as long as you did.
Yeah.
Mommy's gonna kiss you on the forehead.
Oh my goodness! Get out of here with that. All right,
it's past Braylon's bedtime. I'm sorry.
I gotta have some warm milk and a blinky, bro. That's how it's going.
He's gonna enjoy his bourbon. He's gonna enjoy his bourbon from a sippy cup. There you go.
Yeah. Hey man, bourbon is bourbon, whether it's from a sippy cup or a nice glass.
Right.
All right, Braylon. You take care, man.
All right, take care. Catch y'all later.
You're a good sport.
You're working on your art.
It is Vendetti that is writing Hawkman.
Oh, so it is Robert Vendetti. I know he was doing some Valiant books.
He's writing Terrifics too.
That's right. He's writing Terrifics as well. But speaking of, like, I was looking through. It was like
What?
Oh yes, we're not talking about DC. Yeah, we're not talking about DC. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
No. I was like, no, I'm joking about the whole talking about Valiant. Like, we're not talking about DC, so we're gonna lose DC fans. United, he's gonna leave us. But
that's all good.
I was looking at the publication date, and I was right at the classic JSA run, the one that started in '99. James Robinson and Goyer and Jeff Johns and all that. That right there. I know it kind of got kick-started with the whole zero hour and everything, but God, I love that run so much.
I was going to bring up
comedy one.
No, this is the one where it like really grew them as a family. It's the one that had Black Canary. It had Alan Scott, Green Lantern, Stargirl and Stripe, Sandy, who eventually becomes Sandman. Hour Man from the future, the robot Hour Man, Hawk Girl,
okay.
and then they reveal the Hawk Girl, like, well, why? Well, aren't you Shire? I was like, well, I was until I committed suicide, and her spirit left me. It's like, oh shit, wow, kind of got dark a little bit. The book got really dark at times, but I really enjoyed it. And it's like this idea of not only JSA, but another book that never gets any love, and it's the Golden Age, which is basically it's a JSA book. They package it as JSA: The Golden Age. It was just called the Golden Age. It was a 4-issue prestige series. There's 48-page comics from the mid-90s with James Robinson doing the writing and Paul Smith doing the artwork. Paul Smith, mainly known for X-Men artists. He also did a book called Leave It to Chance, which was a DC book, I'm not mistaken.
I remember that. I remember Leave It to Chance.
The artwork is... They put Hitler's brain inside a superpowered body.
I love that. I've got that. I've read it like a million times. I think it's actually falling apart, so I might have to buy a new one. But yeah, I love that. I thought you were talking about that. Yeah, I love that.
And
everything
Hawkman,
about that comic.
And I love what they did with Hawkman, where he turned him into, he's like worshiping like the ancient gods and stuff. He's got a pentagram, like there's not pentagram, but like like sigils and stuff, in his like office, like in blood. And it's like Our Man's being chased by the cops, and he falls and dies. Like there's some, like pretty brutal stuff. And then I love the fact that it's like this idea at the end of it, who would become Captain Comet. The hero that become Captain Comet, he shows up. He's like this young kid. He's like, he's like one of those space, and he shows up and he's got this wide-eyed things, and he helps the heroes battle the superpowered Hitler. I'm like, and it's like this idea of like the new age of heroes, like this real new age of heroes. We could still do our thing, but there's new people coming up, and then that doesn't have to end with us. It can continue on, and it's like it doesn't have. He doesn't have Batman in it, doesn't Superman in it, none of that. It's like the JSA, and it was so damn good, and no one really knows about it. And that right there, you know all about these bad comics now, but these good comics from the 90s and past, it hurts.
And then I like the fight between Super Hitler. This Green Lantern comes out, and you go, oh, shit just got real, although the big guy's back, and then there's this fight between him and Super Hitler. I'm looking at it now. It's so freaking good, and the artwork's really nice.
It's Paul Smith. That's what's so weird about it. Paul Smith, if you look at his artwork from X-Men, it's good, but he delivered it on Golden Age. He did not mess around. That coloring works great, too. It looks like an old film from that time. So,
and the Manhunter is like having recurring nightmares about something that went on with him during the war, and then we find out it's the Ultimate Humanite changed brains over and stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Put Hitler's brain in God, who was the guy? The American Commando's head. That's it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like one thing about the 90s, like there's nothing James Robinson did, and then a lot of people now, like they're like I was Comics Perch on Twitter. He was saying how he was hearing his customers like they were glad that James Robinson's going to be off of Wonder Woman, and because Wilson's coming in. But at one point in time, you had James Robinson was killing it on books. I mean, this dude was a beast. You got JSA, then you had Golden Age, but you also had another book, which I think is one of the most underappreciated books of currently. It doesn't seem like it gets as much love as it should. Sandman. I'm not Sandman. Sorry, Starman. I'm looking at Sandman right now. Sorry, I'm looking at Sandman. I'm looking at the Sandy Sandman from the Alex Ross.
That. It was pretty popular.
It's like
I used to collect.
You're talking about James Robinson and the JSA. He did the Blackest Night JSA tie-ins too. I thought those were really good. And the Superman. He did a bunch of the tie-ins.
I found all the Blackest Night, all the comics except number 8. The guy was selling them for $2 a pop. I was going to grab them, but he didn't have number 8, which was like, I think that's where it ended or something.
Oh, you should have still bought them.
And I could have picked up number. Now I think about it, because I picked up an old Silver Age comic, Superman's Family, with a bunch of weird stories. Yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh, those are great, man. Those are
those are awesome. I like that.
I know that. I give it to my mum to read, and she's reading it at the moment. But I just like
that's cool.
Well, she reads all my stuff because since my dad passed away, I have to move in with her, and I brought all my comic, and she's literally read everything I've got except for the more like darker stuff. Agents of Hate. She's read Doom Patrol. She's read
Nice.
Yeah, so she's read all this stuff, and she wants to collect was it the Star Wars runs and all that too.
Well, there's another book you actually reminded me of. I don't know, because of the weirdness. There was the Elseworlds 80-page giant that came out in '99. That's the infamous book that had you had these a lot of it, you had short stories in it, but you also had a couple of these one-shot pages. It's like young Darkseid. He tries to join the Legion of Superheroes and just give him like a flight belt instead. He's like, "You will rue the day that you turned away young Darkseid." And he had Flash of the Native Americans. It's Flash, but he's like a Native American. And then like Gorilla Grodd is dressed as Columbus, and he's coming to America, stuff like that, like really weird. But the
cool.
the book got pulped. The reason the book got pulped is because of one story. Loretta Lerner, Super Baby's babysitter. In it, Super Baby, Clark Kent, baby Clark Kent ends up in a microwave.
What?
And yeah, it is the inspiration for the Jack Attack short that was a part of the Incredibles movie. Here's the thing. Paul Levitt's like, "Oh, this is horrifying. We can't have this." So they pulped it, and the book became really popular afterwards. The books are already out there, so they recalled the books and pulped the ones that they could. Paul Levitz eventually goes on, and like political whatever, but he eventually goes on to work for Planned Parenthood. He's not okay with fictional babies in microwaves, but he's okay with abortions. So, which I think his daughter's a part of that. So it's like me, my own logic is I'm pro-choice, but here's the thing: it's like that right there. That's messed up. It's like, well, we shouldn't be selling this comic to kids. Who's going to buy an 80-page giant? The thing was like $6 back then or whatever. So, yeah. So this was not. It was pricing herself out of some kid with some like a couple bucks. But I just found it just so stupid. The fact that he has problems with the baby in the microwave, but not so much baby in a tray. But but other than that, it had a really good, I'd say really good pacing as far as like the stories go in there. They're really weird, bizarre. There's Aquaman one. No, that's in the Bizarro comics. I'm sorry, I get them confused because they're about the same. But yeah, there's really good stuff out there as far as the DC books go along those lines. But you had this really good Elseworld stuff. You had
Kingdom Come
by Gaslight.
Yeah, Kingdom Come, man.
Kingdom Come, exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
by Gaslight,
an impact on it, didn't it?
Dark Knight
in
the 90s. Was Red Sun in the 90s too, or
no,
that
Red
was
Sun,
2005.
2005 to 2006.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like Kingdom Come and Dark Knight Returns.
They
like
is from the 80s.
Oh, Dark Knight Returns, yeah, that's 87, 86,
Oh,
87.
87, okay. Well, but no, those comics really, changed the landscape a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of that era, even though it wasn't technically the 80s or the 90s. I mean, it was like late 80s, early 90s, that kind of era where it was getting dark and edgy.
Yeah. What do you think caused that exactly?
I blame Watchmen because they misunderstood Watchmen. They thought the reason Watchmen was so successful because they were dark and gritty and very mean spirited and all that. But Watchmen was just like, hey, we're going to tell more complex character stories, and it's easier to do that to get that drama out by making it dramatic, very very dark, and because the world's on the brink of a nuclear apocalypse. Do you think everything would be nice and happy and sunny and shiny? There's a murder to cover up, a plan to prevent this apocalypse by still killing people, And so they misunderstood it, and so they said, "Oh, it was dark and gloomy. Let's make our comics dark and gloomy," and they totally misunderstood it. But without that, you wouldn't have Kingdom Come, and as much as I have issues with Kingdom Come as far as certain character elements and everything, it's like. I understand Magog is supposed to be this whole, like kind of parody of Cable and the 90s heroes and everything, but like the guy ain't wrong. It's like, you know what? You let Joker it's like one of those things. It works in a limited series and limited format, but you let Joker run loose and kill all these people all the time. But the one
Everyone
time
in the Daily Planet, right?
yeah, everyone Daily Planet, and like I think they even did because
Lois
that's
Lane and Jimmy too. Don't they die, or is it just
and
Lois?
Perry and I think it's
everyone dies.
Yeah. Everyone, you get a death, and you get a death, and you get a death.
He did a lot of damage. And then when they go, I don't know, but then you see when Magog takes over, right? His league's pretty bad, and they end up destroying a lot of stuff.
Well, two wrongs don't make a right, as they say.
Yeah,
exactly. But you're dealing with a guy who doesn't know any better. This guy's like, he's the reactionary hero. He is the screw and like it's like, and he ain't. And this is where I'm like, I see where people come from, but Superman, inspire people to do better. Like he hasn't done much inspiring. That's the thing. Like other than Steel, he didn't do much inspiring. Eradicator, that ain't inspiring. Superboy, that didn't really inspire because he was a clone. He was supposed to be kind of a clone that could turn evil, and they did in that Teen Titans book. Years down the line. When he shaved his head and he carved the L in his chest and everything. Yeah, but this is an era of heroes that like DC, like they weren't untouchable when it came to that. And as far as the darkness goes, and you had, like I said, like mentioned books like Starman. Starman was a book that he had crossovers and other stuff. Like there was a crossover, and it's so weird that see it collected now because I thought it'd never be collected. It was Batman, Starman, Hellboy. It was and it's a weird, it's like 2-issue story, and to see it collected, like those three together in a same. I can see Batman and Starman because there's actually in the Starman book there's some connections to Batman. There's some stuff going on, but with Hellboy, like, what?
Yeah. Have him cross over with, like, Constantine or something.
Yeah, that would make sense. Like, Hellboy with Constantine, that would make perfect sense.
Etrigan.
Oh, yeah, definitely Etrigan. But you look at, you look at DC in the 90s, like, you had Vertigo, so you had Sandman, you had Hellblazer,
Swamp Thing.
Invisible, Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing wasn't as great as it was in the 80s, but...
True.
Alan Moore took over in 1980 something.
Like 82, I want to say 83.
His is the best run other than the original, I think.
You mean the...
Well, I love Alan Moore's run, but I really like the other...
No, that's
the Len Wein?
Yeah.
The guy
thinking of
Creator?
No, I'm thinking of Animal Man. Sorry. I love Grant Morrison's run on Animal Man.
That's...
the new Animal Man run.
Yeah, Animal Man is really underrated.
Oh, you mean the Jeff Lemire during the New 52?
Yes, that's probably that and Wonder Woman are the two best 52s. Oh, I said Wonder Woman. Everybody hates that run. I know.
I hate it. I hate it, but I hate everything according to everybody. So I hate everything. Except for Son of Superman, which is written by Howard Chaykin and David Tishman with J.H. Williams III on artwork. It's basically what that book Invincible is, but better. It's the son of this great hero. It's Son of Superman. It's a pretty self-explanatory title. It's really good. It was a graphic novel, but not graphic novel. Wasn't I think it was only about 60 pages or something, maybe 100. It wasn't that big. It wasn't 95 pages. It's 95 pages. So yeah, it's a really solid story, great artwork, but the days of DC having these kind of solid stories, I think it's kind of long gone now because these creators they don't want to just come because they don't pay them enough. You can make more money doing your own creative thing, create our own work than you can. It's even more true now than it was then. But
it's like Chuck Dixon doing all these Indiegogos now instead of writing for DC or even EVS. He would be drawing covers for DC, but instead he's doing a Indiegogo as well. It's just where the money is.
Exactly. You're dealing with a system now that is kind of catered towards these, crowdfunding things. If you're to tell me, all right, top count.
My friend says doing commissions you get more money doing commissions and covers than you do actually making a comic.
You do
by far, a huge amount more. That's why all these guys like George Perez and even Alex Ross, you know, when's the last talking about 90s comics? That's probably the last time Alex Ross did interiors.
Yeah, that's
No,
true.
well, he did.
Even Jason Scott Campbell won't do interiors because it doesn't pay enough and it's too much stress on him. He was saying on Twitter.
Yeah, people need to lay off him too. You know, you probably saw that a couple weeks ago when everyone was attacking him for how he draws women. It's like
I'm a huge fan of. I've got all the Danger Girls. If you've probably seen my posts, I follow him. I love his stuff. I bought pretty much everything. He's a comic artist. He draws hot women. Just freaking get over yourself.
Yeah, for real. I mean, no one's gonna buy a comic with like a frumpy potato sack looking woman. Like, it's just the medium.
Valiant found out the hard way with Faith.
Hey, they're making a movie of her supposedly.
They were gonna. They tried to do the same thing. I think when they say they're making movies, they can always say they are. Like what they did with the Barbie movie starring Amy Schumer. Hey, we're making a Barbie movie. Amy Schumer. No, you're not. And like, of course they didn't. You know? So, well, maybe with Faith, nobody cares because like nobody will go see it. And then when it fails, they're like, "See, they hate strong, independent women that are not like." I don't mind a woman's got some meat on the ribs. I don't have no problem with that. Meat on the bone. But when a character like Faith, who's so bland, who has nothing interesting about her, and then and if she was like, if that election issue, if there was actually showing like, okay, she's going to meet with both Trump and Clinton, that would actually show like, okay, I could see that, and like, you decide, but no, they're full on Clinton. See, she backed the wrong horse. So it's funny to see how it works, but they just shot themselves in the foot, and it's that kind of thing. It's like it rubs people the wrong way because even if you're not a political person, to see that it's like, oh, come on, like if you really like you void Fox and CNN and NBC and all that, and to see that in a book, it's just going to hurt you. But to do that, the same thing with you didn't have that problem in the 90s. Like the most you'd have is like. You might mention Bill Clinton or you might mention the president, like Wildcats, which is now a DC property. The bad guy in the first arc is Dan Quayle. He's an alien. He's a Damonite. So it's funny to see that happen. Like now it's like like it was silly back then. It's like you can't take the guy seriously. You can't take this administration seriously.
All the evil guys always side with the Nazis, don't you notice that? I wonder if one day evil aliens will come down and side with the Allied side. That would be an interesting story. I'd read that.
Well, if you believe some conspiracy theories, that's what happened in the United States after World War II. Like after World War II, like the aliens came down. How do you explain the technological superiority of America?
Roswell.
Roswell
was right after.
51.
Now that is a great arcade game.
Oh yeah, that's great. Well, another great from the 90s. You don't get arcade games.
I've heard of that one.
Really? It was a shooter at the arcade in the 90s. That was my in 6th through probably 8th grade. I played way too many quarters into that machine. You might be able to find an emulator of it or something, but yeah, it was real fun. It was one of the ones that had a gun, like 2 guns that you play with.
Oh, okay. It's probably was it like Crypt Killer?
Oh, I don't know that one.
Like Carnival, kind of.
Or Revolution X?
No,
yeah, along those lines.
Yeah, okay. Revolution X, kind of like that, but with the plastic gun with the cord, the wires and everything.
It was like a pistol.
Yeah, but that's the same. Like it was plastic. Like I think it was red or blue. They had red one and it had blue, and I think that's most of the shooter games. But the one thing I used to plunk my quarters down in was that the Children of the Atom cabinet, X-Men Children of the Atom.
When Darkstalkers came out, that got my entire money every week.
My entire money, I like that.
Like the money we got from my parents. Like I got $5 from my parents.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and we got
all the money.
Yeah, it got all the money, and I loved because I liked all the creatures and all that, Wolfman and all that, and to see it in this Japanese Capcom, who I was already a fan of Capcom, to see it in this style, to see Frankenstein monster's hands get really big and the Wolfman half wolf, half man, because normally he was just other than American Werewolf in London, he was normally just a guy with facial hair, but to see him
that's it,
and the vampire, when you hit him, and he would turn into a monster when you hit him because he was losing his concentration on his shape and everything. And it's just everything about that game just hit the right buttons with me. And then they released X-Men versus Street Fighter. Then they released Children of the Atom before that, but X-Men versus Children of the Atom. Then Marvel versus Marvel superheroes versus X-Men, and it just kept going. And now I'm broke for the rest of my life.
My biggest complaint is in the 90s, you didn't have, to my knowledge, any DC arcade games. Like, I mean, like, that's a damn shame. Like, imagine, like, you know, some kick-ass DC games, like DC Fighter games. The closest thing I could think of was that Justice League Task Force game for the Genesis.
Yeah,
it was
Nintendo.
It was awful. It was so bad. I think it was made by, it's either made by Rare or Blizzard. One of the two. So it's like two people that should know better. They just made this trash game.
It had to be Rare. Blizzard only made like Lost Vikings, I think was their only.
Oh, that's right.
Direct console.
I remember these two YouTubers that play games. I forgot what their names are. I think the angry. I don't know. Anyway, they were
angry video game nerd. That guy.
Not him. Some other two guys. I can't remember. Anyway, they're going to play the new Injustice game. And they've got the first shot is of the old one, the Super Nintendo one. So this is not right. They whack the TV. The next one is DC versus Mortal Kombat. This is not right. They whack it again.
Yeah.
Justice. That was hilarious. I like DC versus Mortal Kombat. That was cool.
The worst, though, from the 90s for DC games was Superman 64.
Oh, no.
Dare you bring that up?
Oh, no.
Dare you bring that up?
It was the worst thing again. Dude, Superman 64 is the most disappointing thing since my son. You know, kind of thing, Red Letter Media, Blink it, you know.
And then they made like a port or whatever of it and made Aquaman 64, and it was just the same thing, but he swims instead of flies.
Oh my god, it was so. I actually had a chance to buy that at EB Games before they closed their doors, and I was like, nope, not gonna do it. I know. Like, I'm looking at this box like. I was burned once by but apparently it's a Superman Man of Steel game, not based off the movie, but a different, like more comic inspired. It looked kind of interesting, but that doesn't mean nothing. That means like it could just be trickery.
You mean the Xbox one, the one where it's based on the one?
No, it's a 360. I think it's something. Might be a 360 game, or it might be original Xbox. I think it was original Xbox.
That was interesting. That game. Superman was immortal, but the city wasn't, and you had to do as least damage as possible to the city because that was your health. The city was your health.
I like that idea. That's actually an interesting idea.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good game. It was a bit boring and kind of sparse in action and stuff.
That's a Superman Returns game. The only good parts of the Superman Returns game, I think they got Tim Daly to do the voice, which is great. You know, he did the voice, and it might have been George Newbern. It's one of the two, but when you fly as Superman, like you could boost and like hear the sound wave, the shock wave, which is always great. But yeah, it's like that right there was so. Ugh. But looking back at the Superman comics of the 90s, I do have to say this: DC is to blame for all the problems we have now because when they killed Superman, and then it's like, well, killed him, but not killed him. You know, the Kryptonian healing coma and all that. It was. That right there opened the floodgates because already at that point you had Jean Grey die and come back. She had already died and come back at that point. So that right there was like, okay, that's Jean Grey though. Jean Grey isn't Superman. She isn't this, you know, immortal character that will live on. You could draw the Superman shield and people know what that is. You can't. Jean Grey doesn't even have a solid code name. They just call her Jean. That's how lame of a character she is at the end of the day. I'm weeping, and like the one name she's known for is Phoenix, and that was an entity that invaded her body. You know, or according to the comic, it put her in a cocoon down at the bottom of the East River or the Hudson or something. You know, that kind of thing. So
I think, like, right with the death of Superman and all of the other changes, they were just kind of you know, they were worried about the industry collapsing.
Yeah, at that point. But
Yeah.
I think they hastened it, though. I honestly think they kind of hastened the way things went. Because by doing that and making it such a big deal, because I remember seeing it on the news.
Sure,
You know,
it
the
was
black
huge.
bag. It was huge, yeah, because it's a Superman. And doing that, and then, of course, they brought him back, it cheapened everything. So it's like, okay, so when a character dies, it means nothing. And very rarely, except like this ain't the 90s, but Leanne Harper, Roy Harper's daughter, when they killed her during that Cry for Justice stuff, and
it was. Well, that was in the 2000s, though, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That it wasn't the 90s. What I'm saying is like that right there. But when they did that, like that, left such a bad taste in my mouth. That and the whole Sue Dibney thing with Identity Crisis, and
that was bad. You know, we always talk about the 90s being edgy, but I really think for DC, like probably 2005 to maybe 2009, those were some dark times.
So dark. It's like the 90s were nothing compared to it. Like the 90s, you had the Supergirl book where she was an angel. You had, which is so weird. It's like they had the Skater Girl, Supergirl book. You had Lex Luthor had a mullet. Sorry, not mullet. He had a big old mane of red hair.
And he has that weird relationship with like Supergirl or Supergirl Matrix or something, and I'm just like, this is disturbing on so many levels.
It's really messed up. It's like, he's like, I think it was at the time he was a clone or something, or
yeah, it was a clone of Supergirl. I'm pretty sure Supergirl Matrix, right? But it looks just like her in the comics for the longest time.
Face one time, and she gets hit in the face one time. Yeah, Doomsday. It's like it looks like putty, like gets moved out of the way. So I'm like, ugh, that's kind of nasty.
But for everyone, as far as they knew, it was Supergirl. You know, they don't even reveal that for the longest time. And she serves the role of Supergirl and fights Doomsday and everything. And yeah, she's with Lex Luthor. So it's just, gosh, I hope that crap's been retconned. Oh, I'm sure it has.
Well, so I'm saying, like, you had, and you also have books like Nightwing. Chuck Dixon with Scott McDaniel doing the artwork. And it was so good. The Nightwing run was better than the Batman book at the time. It's like it was so solid because it was like it was focusing on one dude. Focused on Dick Grayson, and then with the whole cop stuff and his landlord, which I liked her. I liked that pixie haircut she had. She kind of reminded me of the girl from the movie Real Genius. It's a movie with Val Kilmer from the 80s. It has William Atherton, the bad guy that was Walter Peck from Ghostbusters, the guy that works for the EPA, shuts them down.
Dickless.
But
right,
Dickless.
It's so funny.
That's true. This man has no dick. Yeah, it's like I like that kind of stuff. The movie, I think it inspired a lot of other things too. Like probably inspired the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers with Gadget, because Gadget is based off that actress in that movie Real Genius, because of the way they look and everything, which is kind of funny. But to see the 90s reflected back now and like oh, it's so bad, so horrible, and all this, it wasn't. They had Silver Sable, their own book. They had She-Hulk. They had Nightwing. Solid Nightwing stuff. Then you had all the Image books. Then you had these strong women, sexy women. You had lesbian-friendly stuff with Strangers in Paradise.
Yeah,
all that
still going.
No, it was a limited run. It was not limited. I mean, it was like how many issues did it get through? Like around 100 issues, I believe. Because I actually have all what they call the pocket books, which is they're about a little bigger than manga size. They're the collections are these. It's volume 6 is the last one, and volume 6 collects up to issue 90. It ran 90 issues, and I believe that's actually more than 90 issues because they did I think that's volume 2, issue 90, unless they're counting 90 separate issues. But I know there was like 2 different volumes. Like at one time it was published by Homage Studios, which is Wildstorm imprint, which is weird because Wildstorm's an imprint of Image. So I don't know, but yeah, to see all that happen.
You forgot what the 90s truly brought us. Wizard magazine.
Oh God, here we go. Wizard
magazine
was great and terrible all at the same time.
I know, hey.
I wish you'd gotten into it. I wish I'd gotten into it more. it did have a lot of cool stuff. Like I only had a couple of issues, but I remember having like cross-gen and all kinds of things that you wouldn't have heard about otherwise.
Yeah, cross-gen was my jam at the time. I remember.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I would have never heard of that living in a really rural place. It was, I don't know, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, Wizard had good things. That's actually how I found out about that first comic book convention in '99. Because in the back of the Wizard, they had like conventions coming up, and I looked at North Carolina. It said the Collection Connection Comic Convention. I'm like, because it was like June or July, the issue of, and it was like this is August when it happened. And this is actually after I got my leg cast because I broke my leg at church back in June during a trust exercise. It was a
Really?
Yeah, I was. The thing was
And it still
going
doesn't
up
have any
a.
trust.
I know. Is this why you have all these problems? No, I'm just.
Oh, I have a lot of issues. That right there is part of it. It's like the thing was
that was what broke Larry. This is like a deep. This is a deep cut.
that
He
was
hasn't
just
left his house in years.
no, that was just
Well, you
one
never
of,
know.
that was just one of many. I'll go outside, no problem. I'll carry my no, this. It's like no, but it's like this idea of going up a slide, like it was like a playground slide, going up it. I'm way too old to be on the slide to begin with, but whatever. The idea was to go up it and then come down the steps, all while we're tied together with this yellow nylon rope, like the kind you'd use for like boating and stuff. Like it's nylon. It's not going to get wet. It's not going to get heavy. It's just nylon is nylon. And it had 10 other people in the Sunday school, it's a vacation Bible school class, and ahead of me, and they're tugging the rope, and so 10 people versus me, and I had one person behind me, which was my brother. I tried getting out of it, and he denies it to this day, and he put the rope back down around me. And so it got cinched around my midsection. I couldn't get it off because like you're fighting against that nylon rope, and it was like tearing my hands up. So I get basically dragged up the slide. Like I'm fighting the crew, the crew ahead of me. And I tell them stop, and it's like keep going. Like it's all about trust. You got to trust these people. I'm like, I don't trust them. I don't trust you. And I get to the top of the slide, like where and then there's that little platform, and then there's the stairs, and you're supposed to slowly walk down the stairs, trusting they don't yank you off the stairs. I'm at the top, holding on both sides of there's wooden planks. I'm holding on to it, and they're tugging, and the planks go flying forward. I go flying forward, and I'm like, either I'm end up face first, break my neck, or I'm gonna try to land on my feet. Because if I land on my back, I might hit my head on the ground because the ground's pretty solid. So I'll end up landing on both feet, but apparently I have too much on the right foot because I heard the shin bone, tibia, I believe the shin bone cracked like a piece of wood, like with a wedge in it. It's like and like split straight down the middle, not shattered, but so, and my leg just went and swelled up real big. The guy's like, get up and walk with Jesus. Like, get the hell away from me. And so I spent like 6 weeks in the summertime in the South with a full leg cast, like up the middle of my thigh. It itched because there were sand fleas that got inside of it. And they took that thing off. I had like these wounds on my leg where I scratched it with a straightened out clothes hanger. I was reading comics from the drugstore and all that.
Some dirt in it. Get up.
Yeah, I actually was trying to pour alcohol down it, but that didn't work. So yeah, drinking the alcohol and pouring it out. But yeah, trust exercises, all that. But with all that happened, Wizard was my go-to thing because they had it at the local drugs. They had a local drugstore. They had it, and at one of the local grocery stores, they had it. And that's where they had like books like Dark Book 98, which is the villain. It's like all villains issue, and it just goes to show. There's goes to show just Jesus does not love Larry's leg. In the chat,
isn't that awesome? Yeah, we got some good people in the chat this time.
I can't see the chat.
It's the video link. You'd have to have another tab open if you're on a laptop to see it.
I had that problem my first.
I think probably people are like calling me names and I don't know.
Nah, you're okay. You have not been called no names.
They've been roasting you this whole time.
They hate you, man. They hate you.
I'll find every
we were up to 5, now we're at 3, so we're doing pretty good. That's all right for me. But no, to see, see what's happening.
I gotta take off. My other bros are calling me to play some Age of Empires too. So
Well, we'll wrap it up shortly. But I just say, like, Wizard
I gotta
was.
I gotta
Are you gonna
go
go
though.
now?
Pretty much. I've been
Okay.
holding them
That's
off.
fine.
All right. Well, me and Hard Copy will close this thing out. You have a good evening,
man.
and
Cool.
we'll see you around.
Oh yeah, thanks for
I'll probably have
having
a
me
live
on.
stream of my own if you don't mind joining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably next week, about the same time, if it's okay.
All right.
Yeah, just let us know the time.
Yeah, man.
Have a good night, man. Enjoy your League of Legends.
Age of Empires.
World of Warcraft. No. But
all right, see you guys. Thanks
all right,
for having me on, Larry. It was good talking to you guys.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
But
thank you.
But Hard Coffee. I know you probably got something else got to do since it's after noon. It's like right noon now today, and it's noon Saturday in Australia.
Yeah.
You're part of Australia, but the Wizard Comics. I was the comics magazine, and also the comics they produce, which is like they had that Bull imprint or whatever it was called.
I remember that.
The one
Red Bull. Black Bull.
Black Bull, that's right, Black Bull. And there were some pretty good books in there. I remember the Assassin book that Phil Noto did. That was good. But the mail-in comics, they were my thing, man. They were my shit. The mail-away half issues. I have a stack of those, the ones I didn't get as a kid, because if you didn't get the books, you missed out.
Yeah, we couldn't get that stuff in Australia. But we got the magazine, and sometimes it came with a card it was good until the guy ran away with the money. Didn't he run away with the money, the guy who owned it?
I know it went under. I know that much. But the guy that Jared Sheamus dude, I'm not mistaken, and if I remember correctly, allegedly, I'll say allegedly to cover my ass. Allegedly, he's one of those guys that went on TV like in the early 90s, like telling people, "Oh yeah, invest in comics. The next wave of the future, you'll be able to, retire on it and send your kids to college and all those kind of things." And look what happened.
Yeah.
The bubble swelled and then it burst, and some people made money, some people didn't.
Uncanny X-Men sold like 1 million copies, and everybody was buying it just because they thought it would be worth millions of dollars in the future. No,
you still see bad copies of X-Force #1. You see still bad the copies of the bad copies of Youngblood with the cards and stuff in it, because a lot of shops bought heavily into it, hoping people would come in. They did, and then they didn't stay around.
Yeah, precisely.
You get called a koala boy in the chat.
Boy, I thought I was kangaroo at least.
Kangaroo, you living in a pouch, but no, but it's like Wizard. They introduced they had those art contests and everything. They introduced the world to Neil Francis Yu.
Yes, I remember that.
Which he did that really awesome that's another thing. He did that. The thing that got him introduced was a Batman painting of Joker with Batman's cowl and a knife, like one of those curvy ceremonial daggers, about ready to stab Batman in the chest. Batman's all tied up, and that I always wanted Neil Francis Yu to draw Batman ever since then. But he's only done Superman, X-Men, Wolverine, stuff like that. But to my knowledge, he's never drawn Batman. I think he'd be great at it, but
I want Grant Morrison on Spider-Man. Honestly, I think he could be.
Well, we get more of that spider totem stuff.
Yeah, I like that. Like X-Men, he's run on X-Men. I'm sorry, I know everybody says Chris Claremont, but I love Grant Morrison's run on X-Men. I like Chris Claremont, but I honestly think Grant Morrison did a really good job on X-Men. I think it's one of my favorite runs of X-Men.
That's your opinion to have. I'm not going to say you're wrong for having an opinion, but you're wrong for having that opinion. You're wrong. But that right there, because as much as I love the Grant Morrison run, which is great, right after, as much as I enjoyed Operation Zero Tolerance, after that, it was all downhill for all the X-Men books. And even bringing Claremont back, it just couldn't capture that magic of the past. And then we had Grant Morrison, but during the 90s, Grant Morrison was just on fire. I mean, he did Justice League. That Justice League run he did was incredible. and it wasn't too weird and bizarre like even modern Grant Morrison books are today. It's like he's just too full of himself in most comics today.
Yeah.
But when he did, when he did JLA back in the day, I mean, dear God, it was great. That's even with like you read JLA and then like here's 2 or 3 issues Superman with the mullet and the blue suit, classic costume, and then here he is, electric blue Superman. Doesn't explain it because you have to be reading the Superman books to get it, and he's back in his classic costume after that. It's like all over the place, but it worked.
There wasn't even an angel in the Justice League. There was an angel in the Justice League.
Yes, there was. I forgot his name.
And Green Arrow was in the Justice League.
There was the Green Arrow that was Connor Hawke. Which because I think the Green Arrow at the time had just died.
Yeah. But he came back.
Yeah, with Kevin Smith. Oh,
sorry, Kevin Smith is like a terrible writer. I read his Daredevil.
That Daredevil book he did, the one where it's basically, hey, I saw what Frank Miller did. I'm gonna do the same thing.
Yeah, he did literally other than maybe a few changes. It was literally Frank Miller's run. It was literally.
It was Born Again. It was Born Again, but it's like
Born Again was brilliant. Even Mark Waid, all the hate for him, I actually do like his run on Daredevil. He didn't try to copy Frank Miller.
No, he just tried to do a Spider-Man book, but with Daredevil.
True. I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't care for it. I was like, this is a wasted opportunity on Daredevil. It works great for Spider-Man, not so much for Daredevil. Yeah, but that's how I felt. But you look at back in the 90s, I mean, like Daredevil was just before the Kevin Smith stuff, before the not reborn and everything, born again, all that reborn again. You had Daredevil with that armored costume and like gimmick covers, and the gimmick covers, like, dear God, that's one of the worst things about the 90s. I wish would stay dead. The variant covers and like the hollow full and all that. Just give me the cover by the interior artist. That's all I ask. I want a good cover by the interior artist. If you can't give me that, then screw off.
Yeah,
I want to see who's doing I want to see the artist on the interior do the covers. I don't want to see like Alex Ross doing like a Green Lantern cover with somebody else on the interiors doing something else. It's like it doesn't match. Not the whole side of the cover tells me nothing about the interior of the book. It tells me nothing about the story going on. It's like the art of covers. Like hell, in the 90s, like there's the Uncanny X-Men. The Uncanny X-Men, the Fatal Attractions cover. It has like Magneto on one side, all the X-Men on the other. Sorry, not Magneto. Some of the acolytes of Magneto on one side, other X-Men on the other. And then you have that X-Men 25 where Wolverine's like crawling forward in pain as his costume's like partially ripped off as the adamantium's getting sucked out of him. It's like they went out of their way to make interesting covers. Like even if it didn't have the hollow full in there, you would buy that cover.
Yeah.
It's so few and far between today.
Back to them trying to outdo themselves. Honestly, they've got to outdo themselves, but at the same time, they've got to, the comic companies, even though they're on opposite sides like DC, Marvel, and all that, they've got to, their biggest thought should be the industry. That should be on the top. Like, yes, we have a competing, demographics and all that, but at the very top, we should be thinking about making sure the comic industry is working together to maintain its existence. It brings me back to the censorship between Nintendo and Sega way back when the American government was going after them. Nintendo threw Sega under the bus.
Yep.
Threw them under the bus.
Night Trap.
Instead of working together, instead of making it so that the American government wouldn't have a say over your product and your money, you just decide to grab Sega by the scuff of the neck and throw them straight under the bus. Instead of like saying, well, Sega's doing this and they've got a more adult audience and we do our thing, but we work together and we don't think we should be censored because a bunch of mums had a cry about Mortal Kombat or Night Trap. Night Trap wasn't really that bad. There's way worse nowadays. And yet, and this is what it feels like. It feels like that DC and Marvel are at each other's necks when really they shouldn't be at each other's necks. They should be, trying to compete with each other, but at the same time working together to make sure the industry is still existing, because a lot of people's jobs, a lot of people's love, a lot of people's hobbies, and a lot of future people are invested in this industry. I mean, look at the MCU. It's one of the biggest franchises now. I mean, I don't know about Ant-Man and Wasp. I'm hoping to see that tonight with my mate. But every single Marvel movie makes a ton of money. And if all of a sudden the industry, I wouldn't say it would click out like a light, but what if it just all just collapsed? All those people's jobs are gone. All those people's hopes are gone. Everything, all that's gone. No more money, no more like creativeness or nothing. I'm just rambling now. But just like the thing is, they should be protecting their industry. They should protect it from the tumblers, the social justice worries, the parents who believe that everything is violence and stuff, the governments that want to censor and control it. And yeah, and that's my rant.
No, I agree with you, but there's also the biggest problem is the reason we're so screwed up now. We had that lightning in a bottle. The time in the 90s, where the public was buying comics, but not buying because they wanted to read comics and enjoy comics. They bought them as an investment, just like Beanie Babies and Pound Puppies and all that other crap. They buy into it, and what happens? Nothing. It doesn't go anywhere. There's a bust. The thing fades into obscurity and nostalgia. Like, oh, I remember that. And that's the thing. That people remember buying comics when they were maybe when they were a kid, when they were $1.50 a piece, which would be, now comics are $1.50 like over at Alterna, but Marvel, DC, it's like the cheapest book you'll get is like $2.99. That's the cheapest book, and that's if you're lucky. It's bullshit. It's utter fucking bullshit. And also the fact that these companies are putting out fucking garbage. The books don't even feel great. They're like, I miss the days of newsprint. That's why I like one of the many reasons I like Alterna so much. But we had a Marvel decides, hey, let's go and buy our own distributors. So they buy Heroes World. They buy Heroes World, and they're going to distribute Marvel 100%. And then that implodes because they don't know how to manage a distribution company, and there's some other stuff. And Heroes World goes bust. So they're still distributors, but on such a small scale. There's multiple and medium small scale. They need some big company. The only company left, Diamond. So Diamond got the monopoly. So Diamond and Marvel, DC, they basically, DC and Marvel did team up to stop a Department of Justice investigation into basically monopolies, because it's a monopoly. But it's because it's if they go after it, then it'll hurt the shops and hurt the store. The industry really at the end of the day should have partially started to collapse in the 90s, and actually, because by now it'd probably be healthier, but it's been on life support since then. And then instead, there was on life support for a whole other reason, especially Marvel, and then now it's on life support because the intellectual property makes so much more money than it does through the comics. There was a thing it was a Ron Mars, who did the Green Lantern run in the 90s, is oh look, SJW, something he was picking on it about it, but the comic industry in 2017 made $1 billion. $1 billion is one of the Marvel movies. That's fucking pathetic. That's the entire industry. One Marvel movie. That's like Black Panther. That's not the rest of the stuff. That's how fucking pathetic the comic industry is. This industry used to be much healthier, and that's not even guaranteed numbers. That's just sales to the shops, that's the amount of sales to shops, not to individual customers. What they call sell through. It's not direct sales, and it's just going to get fucking worse. And the industry itself right now, this idea of it's a lot of people say it's they say it's SJWs, it's this and that. It ain't it's people out for themselves. You're saying, the Marvel and DC should be working together. But Joe Quesada, when he took over, is fuck DC. We're not we're not being friendly with them no more. Fuck off. We ain't doing none of that shit. We're going to, they did that. The last thing they kind of did together was the JLA Avengers book. And then that's it. They have not done any kind of working together since. And this right here, this antagonistic relationship, where it could be you can have friendly rivalry, but being totally antagonistic towards each other just does nobody any good. It doesn't do the industry any good. It doesn't do your creators any good. And so the two companies, you want both of them to do great, because if they don't, everything else is tied to the health of that, the comic shops and everything.
Well, look what's happened to the comic shops. Actually, it's interesting. My comic shop, I guess, I don't know, maybe we're kind of separate from America of what's affecting, but my comic shop says they're selling out of like new issues of stuff. Like I wanted to get what's her name, the one that has the cleavage chick. They just released a comic book based on her with the hair. She's
cleavage
like
chick with hair.
Well, anyway, I wanted it. You guys were going on about it on Twitter.
Oh, you mean Elvira?
Elvira.
Okay.
I rang up. I sent a message to the guys and it goes, "Oh no, it's sold out, but we'll order a new one in." And it goes, "Wow!" I actually went like it was an hour before I went into the comic shop and I saw it on the shelf, and I go, and then you guys were going saying, "Oh, it's pretty damn good." And I go, "Well, I'll send a message to see if they can grab one." Oh no, we sold out. We've sold out. They pretty much sell out of most of their newer issues of comics nowadays. But Farmland, gone. I had to.
Depends on how many copies they get at your shop. Like,
well, they had to do a double order of one comic. What was it? They did a double order of a comic, and it sold out. Both orders. They doubled their order of it because apparently they got more pre-orders of it or something. They double ordered it and it still sold out. I forgot what it was, but it was a major comic that just came out or something. So yeah, but you know, it could just be a small microcosm. It's just like just a story. My story. It doesn't affect what's actually happening. Major comic book stores like not Maha, Midtown. Isn't they closing a couple of stores?
I don't know. I know. Well, no. They did Atomic, or is it Apple? Golden Apple. It's like California-based stores, I believe. I think they're the one that they were the closing shops, but like one of them's closing shops, and one of the people I follow on Twitter, they had consigned some books to that store, and they never paid them. The books were sold, but they never paid for the books. So it's like, scummy business practices. So no surprise they closed their doors. But I look at like these people at there's some modern snake oil salesmen in comics today telling you like, oh, we're going to fight back and we're going to save this industry. They're full of shit. They're utterly full of shit. They're there for themselves. Once they get theirs, and I mean, they get theirs, like they make a shit ton of money and they got their audience secured. They don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves. At the end of there's people I follow and like obviously work with, like work around, I guess say, because I make my comics and stuff and do my own thing. But I'm not going to go out of my way to fuck them over. There's going to be people that will. There's going to be people that if I can lend a hand, I will. But if you keep coming at me with the hand out, I'm like, fuck off. Like it's just common, it's going to happen. But there are other people that's like, no, fuck this. I got my own. I already got my guaranteed audience. I don't need anybody else. I could live comfortably off of that. And I see that like with people like Gail Simone and these other writers. Like, if it wasn't for Ron Mars, there'd be no Gail Simone. So you think Ron Mars every day for Gail Simone. For as much as I enjoyed Secret Six, and I enjoyed Birds of Prey to a degree, that's about all I enjoyed from her. And if it wasn't for the fridging issue of Green Lantern with Kyle Rayner, you wouldn't have, Gail Simone. Because Gail Simone, what did she do? Modern day version of going online and bitching about it and got herself a gig.
And she got a website. She started. She had that website. But how many men have been killed in comics for no other reason than to move the story forward? Is there a website for that?
Exactly. Look at blaxploitation films. Look at the exploit and just standard grindhouse films of the day. Like, family members got killed, and Kill Bill, fucking Kill Bill. Did she shoot a brick over Kill Bill? Fuck no. But
I get she's a pretty decent writer sometimes. And I do have some of her stuff, like her Wonder Woman Circle, was it? That wasn't too bad. I like that.
The only Wonder Woman thing I liked that she did was a screenplay for the 2009 Wonder Woman film, the animated one.
Oh, okay. But, did she write that?
Yep, she wrote that. And I was like, wow, where is this? Where is this Gail Simone in the comics? Because the comics Wonder Woman she did nothing for me. But looking at
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I like Gal Gadot's version of Wonder Woman more than I like that one.
Oh, you and me both, brother. You and me both. Oh my god.
I like Wonder Woman to be compassionate and all that. I don't think Wonder Woman would hate men just because her mum told her to. I think she would make her own decisions and use that. And she wouldn't hate anyone. Wonder Woman, like, she'll punch a bad guy if the bad guy needs punching, but she'd probably talk to them first. Try to talk them down a bit.
That's why the Wonder Woman film is like, as much as I love Man of Steel, there's something like that. The first 2/3 of the Wonder Woman film, it's like that last third is, but you can write good dialogue, you can have good directing, but if your actor does not have that charisma, that charm like Gal Gadot does, and just I'm a gush over her. I'm like, dear God, it's like they're so charming, and it's like, yeah, it's not only just beauty, but it's that charm. It's like like if she was like, I don't have any money, can you help me out? Sure thing, here you go. Just hand it over. I wouldn't have to, no promises, no nothing. It's just like there's a charm to her. But that idea of those characters, like the 90s, and I keep coming back to it. It's like the idea of, all the 90s sucked and like all the worst things. Like there was I used to watch Movie Bob back when he was relevant on The Escapist. And he had these like, the 90s sucked, and he'd use a quote from the movie The Wrestler, about a guy who would blade himself, and it was a washed up loser living in a van. Like it's, wow, this guy knows what the 90s sucked. Yeah, like if you're using it ironically, you're still using it. That's my problem in irony. Like I'm doing it because it's being ironic, but you still did it. That's the problem.
Movie Bob is a hack.
Oh, I hate that guy. Fucking slob. Movie slob.
Nobody. I don't know if anyone likes him. I don't want to talk too much crap about him in my car.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But no, it's like everybody looks at it, it's like, yeah, I'll agree. The variant covers of the comics sucked. The hollow foil and that was fun at the time, but then they was not needed. These things were just, it was gimmicks, and gimmicks is a sign of desperation. And to see that in these on these comics, and to see it have returned, and such these people, Art Jeremy, such great artists. These J. Scott Campbell covers. It's like, J. Scott Campbell, I understand that you monthly work stresses you out. That's why it's like he should just do like they do with the European albums. Like sit there, draw like a 50-page story at his own pace, and then release it when it's done. Not a monthly comic, not an annual. Just do that, like a bigger size. Do that. And you know what? He'll make me happy. But to see him just do variant covers, it's like, just go away. I don't want you around. If this is all you're going to do, I don't want you here.
It's a shame, really, because I'm a huge fan of his interiors, because I've got all of Danger Girl, and I don't have much Gen X. Remember Adam Warren talking about 90s artists? Remember Adam Warren?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do indeed. I'm quite a fan of that. The Gen 13 bootleg covers and stuff.
I have the bootleg actually, but I just ordered Titans Rock Paper Scissors, which was a one-off he did for DC's Elseworlds. I did have a copy, but I don't know where it went. But I had to reorder it. But far out, he was the first American manga artist to make it big and he does something called
Empowered.
Empowered.
It's Empowered, yeah, because in the chat they just brought it up, and I also brought up the fact that possibility. What do you think the complaints of that gal is too skinny? They're out of their mind. She's not too skinny. She's just she looks fantastic to me.
Her husband's like the normalest guy. He's just like a normal guy, like you and me. He's not like a bodybuilder. He just looks like a normal, like average type of Joe.
Yeah, same thing with Christina Hendricks' husband. He's like, well, he looks dorky though, so it's like you know what? Where were these chicks when I was going to school? Where were these? where are these women at? I
want to shake her. I want to shake that guy's Gal Gadot's husband's hand. Good on you, mate.
You won the lottery, my friend. You won the lottery. Don't screw this up.
Really hope my girlfriend isn't listening to this.
Hopefully.
First, she just rang me a few minutes ago, and I just talked to her. I said, I'll call you back once I finish here. And she asks, what are you talking about? I go, just comics with girls. No.
No. Well, it's like get hard to get jealous over, Witchblade. Definitely Gal Gadot. It's like,
She gets jealous over video games. She
oh
gets a
wow,
little jealous. Yeah, a little bit. But she's always playing Mario Kart, so.
So at least she cares. At least she's not apathetic towards all of it. But I think this has been a good discussion. I thank you for joining me. Talk about it. This has been fantastic. And thank you those in the chat jumped in. And I'm happy to always discuss the 90s because to me the 90s did not suck. The 90s was fun, and you got to show it some love. And I'm glad other people do as well. Even just because I love it does not mean it's perfect. So love does not equal perfection. So
into X-Men. So Wolverine, I collected Wolverine from a card shop at a shopping center every week. I collected my Wolverine.
That's great, man. That's that Wolverine stuff, especially in the 90s, the Larry Hama written stuff. You had Mark Silvestri, and then you had
Kubert.
Yep, and then Adam Kubert, he was on there for like about 20 plus issues, something like that. Like pretty solid run.
Those covers of Deadpool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the cover where he's at Wolverine up in the air. Yeah, with the two katanas. Yeah. Good old days when Deadpool wasn't overused. Everywhere now. Oh God, he's like Harley Quinn, Deadpool. Please let these characters go away for a long time. Oh God! But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. So thank you again, folks, and
thanks, guys, for the chat. In the chat, I don't know how many people are in the chat.
Well, we went down to 1, and now we're up to 3. So we're that's funny. Like closing shop and like, hey, we're here. Like, we're leaving for now. But until next time, folks. Good night and good luck.